We're recording. Good evening. Welcome to the August 11th, 2020 regular meeting of the Emerson governing body. This meeting is being videotaped and may be viewed from a link on the Borough website, as well as on Verizon Fios Channel 36 and Cablevision Channel 77. You may also access this meeting through the GoToMeeting app. Please turn off your cell phone ringtones, and if you are a member of the public joining us electronically, please mute your telephone until the public comment portion of the meeting begins. Chief, would you please lead us in this flag salute?
Honor America, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please standing for a moment of silence in memory of Connie Roccanova, who was a long-standing Emerson resident, member of our seniors, and very active with them, as well as for Gene De Silva, who was the brother of one of our DPW workers. Thank you. This meeting is called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Law and adequately noticed pursuant to NJSA 10-4-10. Notice of this meeting of August 11th was sent to the Record and Ridgewood News on December 19th, 2019, and notice to said newspapers, posted at the entrances to Borough Hall, on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted as required under the statute. Ms. Diche, please call the roll call of the governing body.
Mayor DePaola.
Present.
Councilwoman Argenzia. Here. Councilman Bailey.
Here.
Councilwoman Dinalo.
Here.
Councilman Gordon.
Here.
Thank you, Ms. Diche.
I'm not done. I gotta turn the page. Council President Hoffman.
Present.
Councilwoman McGuire.
Present.
Also present are Borough Administrator Robert Hermanson, Deputy Clerk Colleen Bedell via teleconference, and Borough Attorney John McCann via teleconference.
Thank you, Ms. Diche.
You're welcome.
Okay, John, you need to mute your phone because I hear your navigation system. Just hit mute on your telephone. Got it? All right, good. The next item on the agenda is absences of governing body member. There were no absences from the previous meeting. The next order of business is proclamations and citations. There are no proclamations or citations this evening. We are going to have a lot of proclamations and citations when we we are open to the public right now, but as everybody knows, the governor now shifted it back down to 25. So if we were going to bring a team in or something and the parents came, we would be over that quota. So we're still hoping to applaud some of our athletes and scholars from our schools, but we're just not able to do it at this time. So we look to do that in the future. Okay, the next item on the agenda is appointments and resignations. Resignation of Margaret Boyce as chair, regular member for the unexpired initial 5-year term ending 12/31/23, effective immediately. May I have a motion to accept the resignation of Margaret Boyce as the chair, regular member of the unexpired initial 5-year term ending 12/31/23, effective immediately?
Mayor, do you need a motion since that's your appointment? We do, okay. I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. May I have a motion to accept the resignation of Joseph Polvere as a regular member for the unexpired 3-year initial term ending 12/31/21, effective 6/25/20 for the Shade Tree Commission as well?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Shade Tree appointment. I hereby appoint David Collin as a regular member of the Shade Tree Commission for the unexpired initial 3-year term ending 12/31/21. Congratulations, David. And I hereby appoint Andrea Lauterbach as the alternate 2 member of the Recreation Commission for the unexpired 5-year term ending 12/31/22. The next item on the agenda is minutes for approval. The Borough Clerk has not received any requests to amend the regular or closed session meeting minutes of July 21st, 2020. May I have a motion to approve the regular and closed session meeting minutes of July 21st, 2020?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. The next item on the agenda is correspondence. Copies of the correspondence are available in the office of the municipal clerk. The next item is financial business. May I have a motion to approve Resolutions 149-20 bill list?
So moved. Second.
May I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Bailey?
Yes.
Councilwoman McGuire?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dinallo?
Yes.
Council President Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilman Gordon?
Yes.
Councilwoman Argenzia?
Yes.
Passes, Mayor, 6-0.
Thank you, Ms. Deche. The next item on the agenda is Resolution Number 150-20, Resolution of the Borough Council of the Borough of Emerson in the County of Bergen, New Jersey, designating a $786,598 bond anticipation note dated July 28, 2020, payable July 28, 2021, as a qualified tax-exempt obligation pursuant to Section 265B3 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended. May I have a motion to approve that resolution?
So moved. Second.
May I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Bailey?
Yes.
Councilwoman McGuire?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dinallo?
Yes.
Council President Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilman Gordon?
Yes.
Councilwoman Argenzia?
Yes.
Passes, Mayor, 6-0.
Thank you, Ms. Deche. I'd like a motion to rearrange the order of the meeting. Discussion of appropriate authority, we will wait to have until our borough attorney can join us in person. May I have a motion just to suspend the order of the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we'll come back to that when John comes. The next item on the agenda is recodification review. Jane, is that yours, or is it Rob's, or everybody's?
Well, there was some discussion at the last meeting about what they were doing and how comprehensive the review was. I did distribute in all your packets the contract and additional information that they had provided. And Colleen and I have finally gotten to the point. Oh, I turned off my light by mistake. Okay. Colleen has, as I've said, been doing most of the work, and we've just been reviewing it as she gets things back from people. We decide which department it should go to or which commission and so forth. We're able to finally give a chunk of information to the recodification committee with the feedback that we've gotten and their suggestions. We are waiting for some feedback from the land use board, something about historic preservation. There's a few others, and then we have a whole section of things that would either go to the borough attorney and or the labor attorney. We're going to review that with Rob first to be as efficient as possible. As I explained to Rob, and many of you may not be aware of the whole system, the whole process, after they had done that review, then we have to give them all the feedback. Then they prepare an ordinance which would make all, present to you all the changes that were returned to them. That would go through the two-step introduction and second reading and public hearing to be adopted. Then that goes to them, and then they have to do the actual recodification of everything that was suggested. And once that's complete, then they give us a whole new code book, so it's a multi-step process. And I'm hoping, next opportunity that we have, that Colleen and I, or if she's not available, I can go over things with the council president and Councilwoman Dinallo, and, try to move things forward, and as well as, speak to Rob and John and maybe the labor attorney, and it's a process, I must say.
Council President, Councilwoman Dinallo, do you have any comments on this?
You want to go first?
I didn't hear what you said.
Do you have any comments about the review of the code book?
Well, I found it very interesting to go over everything. I read it online, and then when you gave me the hard copy, I think I'll wait until, we're actually going to vote on it, because I made a whole lot of little notes, just to, tell the public what it really is all about. because when you hear, recodification, you're like, what is that? So when I really read everything, I was amazed at like just verbiage that had to be changed, firewoman to firefighter, like little tiny things throughout this whole big document, had to be checked and changed. So I think it'll be interesting for the public to hear some of the minutia and the time that people had to put in to fix this, to make it right. So it's very interesting. It really is. And some of the things, there was, one of the things that was in there was the Centennial Commission. So it was still in the code, no one had, because you have to review it. And now it's going to be taken out. So a lot of interesting things like that, I think. Because it was the first time I ever looked at a document this large in one time. So I'm sure they'll have more to say once.
I appreciate
it's
those
finished.
comments, but I think Jane is going to be looking for some feedback from you
And I
as to whether you and Council President agree on some of the changes that they're
Yeah,
suggesting.
I emailed some of the things back.
Okay.
Yeah, I did go through each one, read each one through. There were maybe 3 that I had issues with. One is clearly, one of the recommendations from one of the boards is clearly a violation of state statute. Some of the others I had questions about 8 of them. For the most part, a lot of them were very simple, as the councilwoman said. A lot of them just made sense. So I think I'm not sure exactly what the process would be at this point for the committee, but I suppose Pat and I could kind of go over things. I don't know whether now's the time to do that, Jane, or to wait a bit, or...
We should have another meeting, we should have a meeting.
Well, I'm thinking,
Told everybody else.
yes, as a subcommittee, because there is so much, and then we may have more.
Right.
Get your feedback, your thoughts, if there's some discrepancies, if it's something that would go to the attorney or just be before the council, then those items we can bring to their attention. They did receive everything that I sent to you as well, so that, that everybody's in a loop.
Should they have a meeting with you or a meeting amongst themselves first?
That's up to you. I
It
mean,
might
if
be
you want-
easier to have Jane or Colleen guide you.
I think so.
Yeah.
So if you guys could make an appointment to meet with Colleen or Jane, that would be great.
Someday.
Yeah, after everyone's off of work.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fine.
whenever's convenient for the two of you, and before 4:30 if possible.
Well, this is very important. It happens maybe once every 20 years. I will make myself available, whatever is convenient for them.
Thank
I
you.
can probably make it, Mayor, before 4:30, depending on the day, giving us enough time that it might take an hour, Jane, hour and a half, I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it depends on how many questions.
Might be more than one meeting.
It could be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it might be more than one meeting, so, all right, good, so we're on the way for that, so I'm happy about that, all right, thank you, Council President and Councilwoman Danella. The next item on the agenda is discussion of snow shoveling for seniors. So this is something that I tried doing when I was a councilwoman, and we talked about a lot of different ways of doing it, using Key Club or a group from the school. And what I'd like to do at this point with the vote from the council is put together a sort of task force or a committee and request any volunteer from the borough, because we're going to need a lot of them, I think, because I think the seniors are going to take advantage of this. We'll define what a senior means in our ordinance, so don't start asking yet. But this is something that I think that as a community that we should be able to do for our seniors, and I think that there are probably a lot of people that are already shoveling for their neighbors or their elderly neighbors or disabled neighbors, and I think this is something that I'd love to move forward through. Is everyone in agreement on that? Is everybody okay with me just maybe we'll put an ad and then, not an ad, but do a press release or a
My
little
own-
verb that we're asking for volunteers as the winter is coming forward?
Mayor, my only question is, and maybe this is a question for Rob to answer, in regard to liability for the people who are doing the shoveling, if they get hurt while they're doing it, what is the liability to the town?
I think that's actually a
That's
question
a
for
question
John.
for John and the
Okay,
risk
yeah.
manager.
Yeah.
All right, and we would reach out. But I would say that if they were doing something, for us, then, we'd have to find that
find that answer before we let them do it. Yeah.
John, do you want to weigh in on that at all, as speaking to liability if one of our volunteers is injured shoveling for a senior? I think he's muted.
Just gotta unmute him.
You got to unmute, John. Okay. So, you know what, let's take a consensus vote. Would someone make a motion that we establish a committee in order to do snow shoveling for seniors and disabled? And then we'll work out all of the particulars and the legality of it, as we move forward.
I'll make that motion.
Do you think we should see how many volunteers we have first? You've been doing this for how long? It hasn't happened yet.
Well, I never asked for volunteers before.
That's what I'm saying, maybe we should ask.
Well, if we don't ask for volunteers, first we have to see if people want to do it before we do all the work and pay John to do an ordinance and all that other stuff. So I think we need to find out if it's viable first, if people do want to do it before we put the ordinance. And then if we write the ordinance and go through the two meeting process to write it, and then nobody volunteers, then we did it for nothing. So I would rather see if we have volunteers available before we write the ordinance. Agree?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Mayor, what are you asking for?
I'm talking about people who shovel.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Mayor, what are you asking for us to?
Just for a consensus vote, a motion, that we will be moving ahead with, a snow shoveling program, and we will work out the particulars, after we find out. John, you're not muted now. When I needed you, you were muted. Council President, just to put together the force, so that we could move forward. But as Councilman Gordon had said, what if we don't get any people? I'd rather see if we could get people first and then write the ordinance, because then we know we're doing it for a purpose.
I was just confused. You'd said committee. I wasn't sure what. You mentioned the word committee.
Well, I don't know what it would be called, whether it would be
But when you're talking about a committee, you're talking about a committee of the
committee
council,
of,
or you're talking
no,
about
not
a
a
program?
council, no.
Program, like a group of people that would go, yes, okay.
Yes, like a snow shoveling
Right.
committee of citizens that are willing to
Gotcha.
volunteer.
Mayor, did we send this to the schools last year?
You know what, I think we did ask the school, and this year it might be an even bigger problem with COVID if they're not in session. So that's why I would just like to throw it out there to anyone who's willing to do it, and then we can always reach out to the school and see if kids would like any college credits or whatever in order to volunteer. Sorry?
He's saying speaking to the mic.
Oh, you didn't hear me? Colleen, can you hear me?
She's riding the John.
She's,
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Oh.
You're pretty loud and clear.
all right, good, thank you.
I thought that Dr. Gatens had responded favorably to getting it going through the Key Club or one of the volunteer groups at the high school.
I think that he did too, but I think that we might need more
Step back
with
and start again.
COVID-19 happening. I don't know how long it's going to go on for. I think we could use any volunteers. It's kind of, I think at this point, an all hands on deck, just to help the community.
Well, plus you have all
But we'll
these other-
definitely,
you have
reach
young-
out to the school.
You have young kids who have to do service time.
Right.
For lots of things. So this would be a perfect thing in order to establish that service time that they need for the requirements and meet requirements.
Right,
So
and
it
but there
works.
also might be somebody in town who would look in their 20s or 30s or 40s or 50s that would also like to volunteer.
Mhm.
So we'll just open it up to everybody. We're inclusive, not exclusive, Councilman Bailey. All right, so you made a motion to go ahead with that. Did anybody second that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Do we need a roll call on that? Jane, do you think? No, I think a consensus was good. All right, good. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is discussion of selection of engineer for NJDOT Streetscape Project, resolution number 151-20, selection of engineer.
So
Mr. Hermanson.
At the last meeting, I told you that we had, the state of New Jersey, NJDOT had picked 4 different companies that they had requested, that they allowed us to use their engineers for planning and design, so that we would not have to pay our own engineer, so that part of the money that we're receiving from the grant on the streetscape, we would not have to, use that towards our own. It's part of the cost. So we would get more out of the actual grant. There was 4 companies. I went through the 4. The 2 that I had narrowed it down to is GPI and McCormick and Taylor. basically going through the process of finding out some of the things that they have done. If you look at both companies, they've both done very good work, excellent stuff for both local towns, bigger cities, bigger projects for colleges and ADA certifications on numerous things that they were there. But McCormick and Taylor, for me, seemed just a more smaller to feel like towards what we're looking for our community, to have that smaller feel of the idea. They also were ranked in New Jersey as one of the top company in 2019 to work for in all of New Jersey, which I think tells you a little bit about them and how they go about their process. So that was something that I felt was very good when I spoke to their representative. It was just very, very easygoing. In fact, in the background, he had his 2 children because of COVID that were sitting there trying to get his attention, which was actually pretty funny. And if you looked on the website, from 3 months ago, it was showing him actually, with the 2 kids there in the meeting with him, of what they're doing to try to make it easier for their workers to work. So it showed me that they're very friendly for lots of things. So to me, just the feel that I've received from them, they're all 4 are competent companies. Otherwise, they would not have been part of the New Jersey process through this and on the qualifications. But I just feel at the end of the day that I think that the company that makes the most sense for us is McCormick Taylor, which is what I'm recommending for vote later on today.
How many engineering firms in total did they give us? 5?
4.
4.
So,
Has everyone had time to review and make a decision?
and I will also tell you that I worked with Mr. Averso, who's from AECom, which is also part of a division of GEPI, which is actually pretty funny. But, I didn't know that at the beginning, and then I started doing more research and recognized that. But he was very, very, very good, looking to get our questionnaire started as soon as we basically can go through the process of who we're picking. So once this is done today, starting tomorrow and Thursday and Friday, we're going to reach out to get the questionnaire done of what we need to have, that NJDOT needs, which is a pretty extensive questionnaire to get started. So we're looking forward to getting that process moving. If anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer for you. But I do think that we're moving in the right direction on this. And, we already have the money, which is one of the things that some of these other, towns are still looking to get money from it, but we already do. We want to make sure we do this right and do it well with the right companies doing it. So
And
we
this
can
is for the streetscape that starts at Lincoln Boulevard and goes all the way down to the Westwood border.
Yes. And we would like to have this, because we do this the right way with this, it opens us up again to receive grants going forward. And the way they're more receptive to when people do it the right way. So we're looking forward to that.
All right, does anybody have any discussion on this or any questions about any of the applicants that were submitted to us to choose from?
And why does it stop at Ackerman and not go just to the Oradell border? I thought I heard last year, maybe year before, it was from the Oradell border to the Westwood border on Kinnickinnick. That's not...
So,
Because a lot of the road is already done.
Right, I was just asking, is this a tie-in to the other work? Will it look similar?
it was where it started, and this isn't be a tie-in. And then, depending upon what happens here with this, how well this goes, there may be further opportunities to do something going further down.
All right.
Do you have the award letter with you?
No, but it's 780,000 was the number. You need that for a question on it?
I'm just questioning whether it was only from Lincoln Boulevard, now that I said it, to the end of Westwood, or whether it also covered from Subaru. No, because Subaru's already done.
Yeah, I just didn't know if it was going to look
And the
different.
other building is already done.
You wouldn't want to look different.
But the streetscapes are already done.
Yeah, but I didn't know if it was going to look like this.
Oh, of course it is.
proposal.
It's part of our
It's a
master plan.
continuation. It's a continuation of what started.
The streetscape is part of our redevelopment plan.
Right.
So if anyone is going to, whether it's a developer or whether it's this company that's going to come in, which we got the grant for, they must match our streetscape. That is part of our master plan. So yes.
It will be
So they-
consistent, yes. All right, thank
Excuse
you.
me, so they have to match what we already have?
Yeah. It's,
So basically, anyone could do it?
no, we applied for a grant in order to get the money, in order to finish our streetscape, which means the sidewalks, the light fixtures, probably benches, things like that. And we got the grant from NJDOT. So now we have to put it out to bid and, right?
Yes.
But we have to choose the engineer who's going to write up all the specifications. Once the engineer is chosen, we write up the specifications, we put it out to bid, and then the lowest responsible bidder gets the job.
Are we using their engineer?
We'll, use their
We
engineer
have to
because
use
by,
NJDOT's engineer.
well, we don't
If you
have to.
recall,
We don't have to, but if we don't, we have to
Then we
pay
gotta spend the
our
money.
engineer.
Engineer.
Exactly. So
Right.
it's to our benefit to
Right.
use their engineer. Now, what they will also do is it'll be consistent with master plan. Now, it may look exactly like some of the things, it may not, because they may put
Yes,
some of the.
it will look
You know what I'm saying? They may
exactly like
put
that
a
is our
bench,
master plan.
they may put a bench and we don't, on some of some things that are down there that, better look
It
nicer.
has to match our master
So why
plan.
did
It has to be the same light fixtures, the same scoring on the sidewalks. There was an issue when I don't remember if it was an applicant came in and redid part of the streetscape. I don't know, Ken, if you remember this, and they didn't score it properly.
No, what I was trying to say is.
One side of the street was different than the other side of the street from the original streetscape.
I
And the
agree.
governing body at the time just didn't want them to go back and redo it, so they agreed and said, let's just leave it alone, it's close enough. So at this point, whoever does our streetscape, it must match our original streetscape. Fixtures, scoring, everything, period.
I agree with that. What I was saying is that I was agreeing with you about a benching, is that we may not have benching on one side right now.
Well, I don't know if
That's what
benches
I'm
are
saying.
included, that's why I asked if you
No,
have
but
a
that's what I'm
letter.
saying. So I'm saying if we want to put something in there like that so long as it meets consistent with what the master plan says, you may see something slightly, as an amenity to it, but it will be consistent with exactly what's in that master plan, what we already have. Yes.
Does anyone else have any other comments on this? Do we have to vote on choosing someone tonight?
Yes, that would be the,
So are you looking for a motion to appoint McCormick as our engineer?
yes, please.
Would somebody like to make that motion so we can move ahead with the project?
McCormick Taylor.
I'll make the motion.
Councilwoman McGuire will make the motion. Would anybody like to second
I'll
it?
second it.
Council Hoffman, Council President. All right, can I get a roll call, please?
Councilman Bailey?
Yes.
Councilwoman McGuire?
Yes.
Councilwoman Denalo?
Yes.
Council President Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilman Gordon?
Yes.
Councilwoman Argenzia?
Yes.
Passes, Mayor, 6-0.
Thank you, Ms. Dietrich. The next item on the agenda is new business, discussion of recommissioning Historic Preservation Commission. It does say committee on here, though.
Well, it's committee
I
now.
didn't pick that up.
So I had placed that on the agenda actually pre-COVID.
Right.
Upon the subcommittee for the historic element meeting. We met with the planner, and she had recommended that it would be a good move to move forward with recommissioning the Historic Preservation Committee. It was previously a commission. The Lamatina administration decommissioned the Historic Preservation Commission, so they had been in the past a commission. They are now a committee. And the abilities in a commission, they would be preparing and maintaining the survey of historic sites in Emerson, which the foundation of that is the Bergen County Historic Site Survey from the 1980s, which has been updated by the committee I think it was 2018. Also, they would be recommending the designation of historic sites to the council, reviewing applications and designating any structures, reviewing land use applications with any of the sites that are on that survey. And also it gives opportunity for grants, which right now, the Historic Preservation Committee being a committee, we are unable to apply for grants, open space grants. And one of the grants that they would be able to apply for would be the creation of a historic element, which is something we're currently considering. So right now, we are not eligible for a grant to create the historic element because...
So we would have to pay for it out of the budget, otherwise we
Correct.
could get a grant in order to do that same way,
Right,
if we were a commission.
correct. So it's not necessarily something that we need to address at this moment, but since it's on the agenda, I would update, I wanted to update everyone on it. It's something to consider. We could move forward with a further discussion after the pandemic settles down. But
Okay.
It's something to think
So we
about.
don't need to take any action right now, we just want to keep it on the radar.
Right, I just wanted to give an update.
All right, great.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman. The next item, does anyone have anything to say on that? Okay. The next item on the agenda is discussion of transportation alternatives set-aside program request for applications. Mr. Hermanson?
So we received some information that again, the state has a TAP grant out, that it can be awarded in projects from $150,000 to $1 million. The deadline for us to apply would be November 24th, 2020. Basically, what it allows for is provides federal funds from community-based non-traditional surface transportation projects designed to strengthen cultural, cultural things, along with anything that would be able to be used for biking, your bike paths, regular paths. Since we're not using, we don't have water systems here, they would also do water, but that's not our what we would go into. But it would allow design and construction of the
You
off-road.
meaning like if we wanted to put in a ferry, if we had a
We had
body
something
of
like
water
that
or
with
something?
canals or things like that would help that if we could. But design and construction of off-road and off-road trail facilities for pedestrians and bicyclists. Conversion of use of abandoned railroad corridors, scenic turn, just historic preservation and rehab of historic preservation facilities, both land and water, such as building structures and canals. So there are things in here that I think, would be interesting. Community improvement, streetscaping is also in this, and corridor landscaping. So there are things that I think if we look at this, grant and go through this, I think there are some things that we might be interested in doing. So I would asking the council again for ideas, that we have, we would be able to come up with some other administration might be able to look at a few things and projects that have ideas with. But along with Bruno Associates, who was our grant writer, I think that we could put some things together and find something that I think would definitely benefit the borough. And I do think that there are some ideas that can be used here.
Rob, I don't recall, are these matching grants?
They have not, I do not believe this is a matching grant. I believe this is a straight grant to us, just like the streetscape award that we received or in the, for prior for our streetscape.
What would be nice is to put in the bike path somewhere, as, there's been a lot of talk about kids on bicycles lately, and a bike path would be really nice where, that the kids could go and bicycle and adults more safely, and we could also keep them out of other places they're not supposed to be.
Well, that is actually something, because there was something that I'm going to ask to add on new business on the next one, because of something that did come up that we're going to ask if we could do something on, if we could add that on part of this. So
why don't you just go ahead with that?
that leads to an issue that right now we're having on Lincoln Boulevard, at the end of Lincoln Boulevard coming down onto Kinnicamack Road.
Can you speak up just a little bit?
Sure. Into Kinnicamack Road. Currently, if you're a guy there with a fence that's going around, it's very difficult to see someone coming from the other direction. As pedestrian is one thing, as you're coming in and they're walking around and they should be in the crosswalk, and most cars are able to see the pedestrian, and should see the pedestrian. The problem we're having right now is that there are bicyclists who are currently coming on that road and on the sidewalk, on the side of the street, coming in against traffic. And if they're coming in against traffic and the person who is turning right at the traffic light, they may not be able to see the person on the bicycle, so it could be causing an issue. And it was an issue in one. We had an incident where there was a close call. So one of the things that we reached out to the county. County came out and told us they looked at the light. They were standing there along with myself and Mr. Sylvia, our construction official. And as we were standing there, a bicyclist almost ran our official from the county over. And so she understood exactly now what was going on because she was behind the fence on one side, went to step out, and the bicyclist was coming. So there are two suggestions that are being made by the county, along with ourselves. And in order to do this, we would actually have to pass a resolution asking the county to do this and go forward. The first is, while the construction is going on and the redevelopment, there will be, when the redevelopment is done and the way that they have designed the sidewalk is that you will see the building will, where the building was originally in the old restaurant comes out further. It will not come out as far, and it will go in on an angle so that you would be able to have a better sight line. Currently, right now, that's not the situation, and so the county is recommending that we put in a no turn on red at that light right now until the construction is done. The second thing that they said that we would have to recommend, and they did give us sample ordinances that I can, pass and give to you and show you what they've been done in other towns, is restricting the bicyclists on the side of the road coming against traffic, for the safety of the bicyclists and the safety of others, because, they do not want them coming into a sight line where they can't be seen. The bike coming, if it's on with traffic, the car it can see the bike coming, but when it's coming the other way and you're turning into it, as the car is moving and the bike is moving, it makes it very difficult not to have an incident there. So the two recommendations that they're making is that we would actually have to make an ordinance specifically stating where you would not want to have bicyclists on the sidewalk, because obviously everywhere else in town has.
Mr. Hermanson?
Yes.
I thought that the laws for bicycle riding were the same, that you had to ride with traffic and not against.
on street.
So why do we have to write an ordinance?
Because in the street is different than on the sidewalk, because as you have young kids who are 6 or 7 or 8 years old who are riding on a sidewalk, if they're going down one street and coming back the other, you generally do not want them to go across the street to come back to get back to their house. So the reason why it's not limited on a sidewalk is because of the distancing, that you don't want to have someone coming up to tell
So
them they're
there's
young.
no law to prohibit somebody riding a bicycle on the wrong side of the street on the sidewalk?
That is correct. Right now, you would have to restrict it yourself. You would have to limit where it is in the capacity of certain areas of the town or streets in order to limit where you would not want the bicyclists riding there. It makes perfect sense if you think about it on the main road, especially on Kinderkamak, to make sure that the people who are on a sidewalk, who are riding a bicycle would be going in the right direction and not the opposite. I have spoken to the police chief about this. We looked into this with the sergeant, and we looked for laws and the restrictions and things that were on for bicycling. The only thing that was there was in the street is yes, but sidewalks, no, for that reasoning. But we can restrict in certain areas for the safety of the bicyclists and for the people.
Rob, would this include pedestrians?
No. So pedestrians walking, they still have right-of-way, they still have this crosswalk, they have the button, and you're supposed to stop on that side. The problem is in a bike is if they think they have the light, they're moving, and if the car is turning right, because it stops and then proceeds, then by the time they go to proceed, if the bicyclist is still moving at their regular speed, they may not see them as they're turning. So that's the reasoning for the restriction, and it's the reasoning why we're looking to do something, especially on Kinderkamak Road in that area, because we do believe that we do not want to see anything, have anything happen to anybody.
I had a situation making that right on red, and a jogger just came out from behind that building on the sidewalk. He froze, I froze, we were lucky it didn't hit him.
There you go.
Yeah, there's the example.
I think everyone recalls that it used to just be a single lane of traffic, and when they redid the Kinderkamak Road, they redid that intersection and made it into a left turn and a right turn lane. And I think I'm not an engineer or anything like that, but I think they used, one area that used to be used for one car for two cars, so now you're not getting the same.
Well, that's a terrible right-hand turn on Lincoln.
Right.
It's not even wide enough, I don't think.
Well, a lot of people have said that that's why we're trying to restrict this. I mean, if you want to go further with it and turn it back to the way it was, we'd have to talk to the county about that.
Well, one of the other things that they did talk about is that as the redevelopment goes on and as redevelopment is happening, as the sidewalks are starting to be put in and things are done, they may look at that point to move the crosswalk further up so that you have a better, line where you are now as opposed to
Who will
where you
look to
are.
move it up?
The county, because the county would have to do that at that time.
They already gave approval that everything was okay over there with the redevelopment, correct?
Yes, but what they're looking at now, when they saw what happened, they said that this is a way that when they move everything, that they could do it then, because right now, if you look at the sidewalk, the way it was set up, it's set up for ADA, and that's the reason why they did those sidewalks the way they did. In order to do it now, to move the light currently, you would have to redo the whole curb and do everything on that side, which does not make a lot of sense at this point to them, since they're going to be redoing the curbs and sidewalks anyhow with the redevelopment. And upon that point of doing that, we would be able to reach in and say, look, let's do this all at the same time, move the light, move the button, because the button is supposed to be within 10 feet of the crosswalk for a person who is disabled, so they would be able to get to the button so they could push it. So if they move the crosswalk now and move it up further, they may not be able to get to that point, and then it would not be at the ADA curb for them.
Councilman Gordon?
There's more going on in that intersection than moving the sidewalk and the light. That right-hand turn is absolutely crappy. When you make that right, if you're not paying attention, you're in the other lane.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, we understand that was one of the things that
That
we're
whole
talking
building might
about.
have to be moved back for that intersection to be correct.
There is going to be some adjustments to that. Like I told you, there's going to be a cut into that, and the design is in there.
That is a
And-
county issue.
That's correct.
With the building.
Yeah, I don't want to
our
get words
issue.
dragging
No.
our feet with this redevelopment.
But that isn't the county have, Chief, does the county have jurisdiction over that corner?
Yeah.
So the county has to revisit. Now, look, there was an accident there.
I understand.
And so that's what brought this up. So I believe that the county has already given approval for lines of sight and whatnot for the building from an engineering standpoint for the redevelopment project. So now that there could be an issue there, it's going to be up to the county to tell the redeveloper what they are and aren't allowed to do as far as building,
Okay.
or where they're allowed to place it, or if they have to move it. But I don't know what that process is, but I know it's not up to us, because it's a county jurisdiction.
So tonight, what we need to do, if we would like to make that a no right-hand turn right now on
That's
red,
the best Band-Aid we can put on it for right now, is making
Yes.
it, that's what the county suggested.
absolutely. In order to get the sign, to have the sign put up, we have to pass a resolution and asking them to do so, because the freeholders have to pass that then in an ordinance to put the no sign, to put the no
So they
turn.
want approval from us in
Yes.
order to write an ordinance to put on the books for the
Yes.
Kennecott Road cross-section.
Correct. So tonight, if we can if that's just something that you're in agreement with, we will go forward, ask for no red. At that point, we would then, after we sign the resolution, we will send it down to the transportation board and, at the county, our contact. She will then let the freeholders know, that this is going to happen, and they will put it on for their next meeting, for approval, and, to do that, and they will come up and put the sign up once their ordinance is passed. In the meantime, what we would also then do, and look forward, is to go through and come up with an ordinance, stating about the bicycling on that side. The chief and I have already talked about that, and that would have to occur, and how we would enforce, and that would have to be enforced, to make sure that, to protect, the residents and the bicycles.
I just want to verify this. Chief, can I ask you a quick question? So you can ride a bicycle in the wrong direction against traffic on the sidewalk.
Anyone who's in the roadway has to follow.
I can't hear you. Can you just come up a little bit?
Anyone in the roadway has to follow motor vehicle laws, that you are allowed to ride on a sidewalk.
So sidewalk is not covered by motor vehicle laws? Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
And then really the biggest issue is young kids not feeling comfortable beyond the roadway, All right, so now they're on the sidewalk, and that's really the only question you gotta think about is, should they have to cross the road in order to go in a certain direction? Should they not have to? And that's really the conversation for you to have, involving this whole,
Are kids, are little children really riding their bicycles on Kindertamack Road?
I mean, you take Dyer Avenue.
You're saying children, but I mean, they're
Yeah, but Dyer
talking
doesn't have
11-year-old,
sidewalks.
12-year-old, it's
Well,
still
I'm saying
dangerous.
They might come out, ride down Kindercamack, go back down Orchard, and do something, like, I'm just thinking outside the box.
Okay.
So what,
And that's a really question, there's no right or wrong answer.
the only answer is they have to go the opposite way now. They would have to, instead of going that way,
I
just turn
understand.
around, and that would have to be something that is explained to the parents in that area. You would have to go in and educate them and let them know what's happening and why should they come
That was my
down.
next question for the chief. I'm just gonna throw it out there. Are we actively doing bicycle safety programs, or has that stopped because of COVID?
As of right now, we haven't done because of COVID. We normally, sporadically will do, ISO registrations, we'll do a safety course when we do the inspections, but we haven't done it this year.
Is there a way that the police department, under your jurisdiction, can have kids sign up for like under 25 outdoor and have them come down and do the bicycle safety? Because I think the governor, we're at no more than 25 people meeting, correct, Rob?
That's correct. 25.
Maybe you could do like a sign up or something. I'm just throwing out a suggestion because there really are so many people riding bicycles because everybody is not working full days. They're working 4/10s instead of 5 and 5 8-hour days. And there's more people, I think, with more leisure time that are just around in general.
I guess definitely, I have an officer assigned to it already, so I could definitely talk to the officers and see, what their schedules are like and see if we can get something together.
And then they can do it like by sign up. And then if they don't sign up, then you don't have to do it. But at least you can put it out there so that people know the rules and how they're supposed to obey the law when they're riding the bicycle. That's the only way I could think to do it during COVID is to have a sign-up sheet and have no more than 25 per session.
Yeah, I'll have a meeting with my supervisor, and we'll discuss it, like I said, we already have it in place as part of what we normally do, and it's just really putting it together.
I know you guys always used to give out, if you saw the kids with the helmets, you would give out the DQ and stuff like that, and that's a great community policing event. And your open house is canceled this year, correct?
Yeah, we have a problem.
So and you didn't have your golf outing, and you're not having the camp pop outs, which means you're not having the police open house. So I would love to have some kind of contact with the kids from the police department, but I think it has to be done on a limited basis.
Yeah, we have, like I said.
I'm just thinking outside the box right now as this conversation's going on.
With my officers, and, there's a couple of things going on within our department, and, this is not seeing what the manpower is like.
Okay.
So that we can do it, and I'll definitely, inform you. If we go forward.
Okay. I'm sure you'll do something great. Thank you, Chief. So you would like us to get back onto this?
To make a
You would
resolution.
like us to
Yep.
make a motion
Well, yep.
to switch the turning lane, which coming east on Lincoln Boulevard, a no turn on red, and to send that down to Bergen County Freeholder Board so that they could make it a law.
That is correct.
Does that change back once the intersection is corrected?
We can do that. We can make that stipulation, yes. That once it goes back and it's open, we can then request to take the no right-hand turn off at that point, yes.
Can I get a motion in order to send down a resolution that'll be written by Mr. Hermanson, asking the county to prohibit right turn on red at the corner of Lincoln Boulevard and Kindercamack Road, heading south?
Until such time as the redevelopment is done. We can put that in there.
We need that right-hand turn back.
You can,
I'll make-
we can
I
stipulate that.
understand, when
Yep.
the road was redone, it alleviated a lot of traffic up Lincoln, but I'm being told now that there's an issue there, so if we didn't address it at this time, we would be remiss, so I think this is something that we have to do right now. But no one's going to school right now anyway.
I understand that, but just look at what the no right-hand turn onto Linwood was coming up Kindercamack from the Subaru dealership, and they threw that curveball up there. No right-hand turn to go,
Right, it backed up again. Well, it still backs up. I
and
mean,
everyone was up in
look,
arms over it. People
I
are
would-
still up in arms over that intersection.
I would love for the county to come back and do a revisit of everything that was changed, because I think there are still a lot of issues with Kindercamack Road corridor. We've reached out to the county, Rob, haven't we, on a couple of occasions, and asked them to come in and do a look back?
Absolutely.
Maybe that is something we need to pursue again, because
I think we do. I
the
don't think we
timing
should
of the
stop
train,
pursuing that
all of
one.
those issues still exist, and there's still traffic. I think the only reason why traffic is alleviated right now is because so many people are telecommuting and they're not on the roads.
Look, we stood there, and I think that
Was it
the...
Nancy Dargis that came to the meeting
Yes.
with you? Okay,
So
good.
Nancy came up, and I think that she was actually pretty shocked, and that the majority of the traffic, 95% of the traffic was turning left, as opposed to right. So, you know, we were waiting for cars to actually turn right for us, and there were very few at that time. And it was just maybe the time of day, the hour, whatever. But when she looked at it, when she saw the bicyclist come up and almost take her out, she agreed that there was definitely a problem. And she said that if this wasn't fixed, that it was something was going to happen, and she was concerned. And so we are too. And we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the people, and it is the right thing to do right now. And I agree with you that, you know, once this is done, where redevelopment is done and the sight line is better, and the county understands that now from Nancy being here and seeing what's going on, she is definitely taking that back to the county to let them know what was going on.
Well, she's the head engineer on the project,
Yeah,
so.
but she's also letting the freeholders know, of saying that this is the reason that this, she had said that this is a problem.
Yeah, bus couldn't swing that turn, coming down.
Don't you want the truck hit the building?
Yeah, the truck hit the building.
Okay, so, can I have a motion? Do I need to say it again?
No.
Can I,
So moved.
Second.
Nice, Skip.
go back to the videotape. Were you gonna second that?
The second was,
Oh, Ken seconded it, Council President seconded it. Can I get a roll call, please?
yes, I'm going to make this resolution number 160-20. That will make Colleen happy. Councilman Bailey,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGuire,
Yes.
Councilwoman DeMello,
Yes.
Council President Hoffman,
Yes.
Councilman Gordon,
Yes.
and Councilwoman Argento.
Yes.
Passes, Mayor, 6-0.
Thank you, Ms. Nietzsche. Okay, the next item on the agenda is introduction of ordinances. There are no ordinances being introduced this evening. The next item on the agenda is adoption of ordinances. There are no ordinances being adopted this evening, so that brings us to reports. I guess we'll start, Councilman Bailey, do you have a report for us this evening?
Very briefly, just pleased again, we have the firehouse renovation taking place. It's been a long time coming, and I thank Rob again for his leadership on that. And I know they're digging things, and I'm sure they're going to find some things they didn't think were there. But again, it's a needed project, and we'll get it done. That's it.
Would that make a comment on it?
No.
Am I okay in saying what I said?
What?
We're okay?
Yeah.
On the end of my report.
Councilwoman McGuire,
Oh,
would you
okay.
like to give us your
Yes.
report?
I have a short report also. For recreation, due to COVID-19, the Recreation Commission has elected to cancel the summer movie night and also the summer fireworks event that was scheduled for August. They do look forward to hosting events for the community in the future when things settle down. The police were busy last week assisting residents during the recent power outages with traffic control and any other ways that they could help during the outage, so we thank them for that. And thank everyone else who worked on that, I'm sure, in the borough. I know you were busy. And for everyone, all the residents of Emerson, I hope you enjoy your August.
Thank you. Councilwoman Denali, do you have a report this evening?
Yes. The Chamber of Commerce says there's, not
To the microphone.
Chamber of Commerce said there's not a lot going on now because of COVID and it's the summer, but they are in active negotiations to have their blood drive next October. So that's where they are with that. The Board of Education is very busy with their preparations for the opening of school. I was happy to hear this when I spoke to Superintendent. They're ordering the necessary safety supplies for the staff and the students, because I know I have friends in education, and they worried about that, whether they had to supply their own or whether the school is going to supply it, but I was happy to hear Emerson is definitely going to supply it, and they're ordering already. The construction at Memorial is ahead of schedule, and at the junior, senior high school, they're ready to resume because they had stopped the construction for a while. The first day of school has been shifted from September 10th to September 14th, all right, so that the faculty and staff can use the additional time for their safety and health training, which is another plus for Emerson, that they're actually going to train the staff. I thought that was another positive thing. That's it.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Council President, do you have a report for us this evening?
Yes, I do. My report really focuses on the tree damage from the storm that I cannot pronounce. As everyone knows, there was quite a bit of damage to the trees. It's the worst storm that I've seen, possibly with the exception of that freak October snowstorm we got. And that includes Hurricane Sandy, going back to 2005. Emerson was certainly not unique. Some towns were worse than us. The DPW did a great job of cleanup. Presently, Perry Salamando, our DPW superintendent, and our tree inspector, Steve Frassa, are going out and assessing the cost to take care of the tree damage. It's going to be fairly expensive for the town. We're probably going to go through a lot of what's left in our tree removal and tree pruning budget. And they're making up a priority list in order to determine which are the worst situations and for our contractor to take care of them first. Again, I would say to the public to be patient. I understand it's difficult, but it's going to take a little time. There just was an incredible amount of damage from what was a fairly short storm. That's
I have
it.
a question,
Yes.
just to follow up for Mr. Hermanson. If the trees came down during the state of emergency, does it need to come out of the shade tree budget, or can FEMA reimburse for the removal of trees that were knocked down during the storm, or no?
It all depends on how much damage is done by the storm and if there is a declaration made through the county, but they may declare a state of emergency, but when you go through the process, they have to come through a certain number, a total number for each county of damage. Once that's assessed and made, at that point, then it can be reached out towards a FEMA application.
Keep an eye on that and follow that.
We are.
Shade Tree Commission.
And I was also talking to Mayor Perry about that, and if we do get reimbursed, it's going to take a while.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you mean it's going to take a lot?
In other words,
A
we're
while.
not going to get immediate FEMA money to, pay our contractor like next week or 2 weeks from now.
Right, no, it would be money that we would pay out and get reimbursed. As
Right.
in my report, I'll give something on that, something pretty similar to that, yeah.
All right, Councilwoman Argenti, do you have a report this evening?
Just a quick brief run. The ambulance meeting met for July. The total calls that they took were 12 in Emerson, none in any other town, totaling for 2020 so far, 127 calls locally,
How many calls
127.
for the year?
Yes, but that's only for Emerson. It's only for Emerson. Total 2020, 127 for Emerson, other towns 13. Total miles driven were 67 for July, totaling 569 for the year. They covered 15 hours of 12-hour shifts, 135 for the year, 379 for the month of July. Man service to the town, totaling 3,661 for the year so far, 2020. Everything is really status quo. They're just awaiting for the asphalt guy to come and sign the paperwork, and the electrician and the garage doors are on hold until the asphalt's done. So once that is done, then they'll be able to have the doors put in, the electrical put in, and the building should be almost ready to
We
go.
really need to get that done. The cold weather's coming fast.
They're working hard on that.
They are.
Yeah, I think the doors are ordered.
The doors are ready. It's just they will not install the doors until they do the asphalt.
The asphalt's done, I saw it Sunday.
Okay.
So they're working,
I was there dropping off my recycling.
they're working hard to try to get that done.
Okay, good.
I got
Sorry,
nothing.
it's your turn to give us a
I'll talk to
report.
Terry myself. Yeah, I'd like to add, for Jill's with the police, for the month of July. Adults arrested was 1, juveniles arrested was 1, and they received 212, 911 calls for the month of July. And then for the DPW, 11,560 pounds of metal was recycled, and it generated $464.46. The storm, East Sais, is that it? Anyone?
I just call it Isaiah.
Isaiah, stuff it on whom?
Anyway, on August 3rd, the DPW prepared for Tropical Storm Isaias. They cleaned all the stream catch basins and brooks. The swell behind Patrick Avenue was checked and cleaned. Barricades were set up in all the areas that are prone to flood. August 4th to the 7th, the DPW cleaned up after the storm. A large branch fell on Lincoln Boulevard, breaking several telephone poles and bringing down many power lines. The DPW worked with PSC&G to remove the branches and trees. They also took down 7 large branches or small trees that had fallen onto buildings and cars and made a list of properties. The borough's tree surgeon will have to remove these trees. Over 40 calls from residents requiring chipping services were received on August 5th. These were responded to, and the DPW is going through the whole town to chip any branches that were curbside or causing problems. They will do a second pass through the town after the first round is completed. DPW crews have been working extra hours and Saturdays until the town is cleaned up. And they've also trained all DPW staff members, took the following GIF or NJDEP required classes. July 13th, the Stormwater Management and Spill Prevention class. July 22nd was the Hazard Communication Globally Harmonized System. And on July 30th, Fire Extinguisher Safety. The DPW Administrative Assistant took the GIF Training Administrator class on July 20th. The DPW spent 2 days pressure washing the basketball courts at Ackerman due to green mold. They're very slippery and unsafe.
Say that again?
The DPW spent 2 days power washing
They
the
did.
basketball
You know,
courts.
I can give you info on that. One of the young residents that plays every day contacted me, and they wanted to wash the courts themselves, which I thought was really cute, and I thought it was big, great, that they wanted to help the community in order to do it themselves, so that no taxpayer dollars went to it. But we asked Rob about that, and Perry and John, and obviously we couldn't have the kids do it. It's a liability issue. So Perry, they washed it once, and the mold wouldn't come off of the back tennis court. Because it's so heavy, because the trees are over it, so the sun doesn't beat on it. So they went out, and he got a quote, and it was a very expensive quote, to have a company come in and do it. And then Perry, being Perry, went out and rented the machine himself, and I think they got it done for like minimal money. And the kids are thrilled to death that now the basketball courts are clean. Nobody's falling anymore, and it's terrific. So we really do appreciate that the DPW did that.
Yes,
And I
very
know that the
true.
kids really appreciate that the DPW did that for them.
Danielle, can I just, you to ask, I just want to,
Go ahead.
for the total cost for the ambulance, it was 127 total, 114 in Emerson, 13.
For the year, to date.
Yep,
Okay.
year to date.
All right, thank you for clarifying. Okay, Kate, do you have a report for us? You already gave it?
I have no report.
Okay, all right. You do have a report. Do you want to go first, or should I go first?
I have lots, so if you,
I'll go first.
yeah.
And then whatever you forget, I'll pick up, and whatever I forget, you pick up.
Yeah.
Okay. So, the fire department has invited the governing body, as well as the public, to a 9/11 ceremony at the firehouse, at 6:30 on the 19th anniversary of the attack on America, at the firehouse, 6:30 on September 11th. And we really appreciate that several years ago, they started the ceremony. It's a solemn ceremony. It's a short ceremony. I encourage as many residents to come down and join us to remember all the lives that were lost on that day. The next item is the You're gonna go into the PSE&G stuff with the?
Yes.
Okay, so I won't go there. And you texted Brian Giblin to join us?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so the firehouse floor project, are you covering firehouse floor?
Yes.
Okay. I'm running out of things to report. So if you're seeing this meeting and your lawn debris has not been picked up from the storm, leave it out there. Data is worked Monday, Tuesday. They are supposed to come back tomorrow, but we're
No,
not 100%
not tomorrow.
sure.
Thursday, because they have a
Okay, you got
recycling.
confirmation.
Yes.
So
come
Data,
Thursday.
if this is on TV tomorrow, which is Wednesday, your lawn debris will be picked up on Thursday. They had a difficult time on which side of the street, on which side of town? They're not finished.
I forget they were trying to get to, I believe it's on High, it was High Street was one of the areas that
All
was
right,
still
so
left.
they're not completely finished, and just keep your lawn debris out. We understand that there's a lot. They're doing the best that they can, and they will still continue to come out and get
And they
that.
have a
So just leave
recycling
that
day
out on
tomorrow
the
for the town. That's why they can't make it tomorrow, but they'll be there on Thursday.
Okay. Census. In 2010, there was a total of 79% of our community that answered the census. As of today, I know Jane is very happy at this. We have exceeded that. We are at 79.7% response rate. Enumerators are being discharged out to the homes that have not answered the census as well yet. And 2,100 houses self-reported in Emerson, and there are approximately 530 that still can self-report, and they will keep an enumerator from coming to their home if they do that. And if you need help with the census and filling it out, you can call up Jane at 201-262-6086 or Colleen, and they will put you in the right direction. There's a big push to fill out the census form so that we can get some different grant opportunities and relief for the borough. They base it on the numbers of people living within the municipality, and larger municipalities always get more. There's a lot of grants that we're not even eligible for because we're under 10,000. I know we're not going to make it over 10,000, but if everybody counts, and if everybody is counted, it affords us more opportunities as a borough. I just want to piggyback on Brian with the DPW. I want to thank our Office of Emergency Management, Mark Savino and Perry Salamando, for handling all of the issues during the storm and coordinating with our police chief and the police department, with the fire department for all the fire calls, with EVAC, and all of our DPW workers that were out there working very long hours after Isaiah is the best I'm going to get at it, so I'm not going to try any harder. As Brian said, that they are still continuing to work until all of the cleanup is done, so if you still have debris, leave it out. Gata will be back on Thursday. If you are not getting to it by Thursday, give the DPW a call, let them know that it's out there, and they'll make arrangements in order to have it picked up.
They're picking up too.
I know they are, that's why I said call the DPW, right?
Yes.
Yeah, 262-8199. The senior meeting, we had one very productive senior meeting last month, but due to the governor's order of the number of people gathering indoors down to 25 again, we have canceled the senior meeting for this month. As Councilwoman McGuire said, the end of summer blast and the fireworks, the town picnic, is canceled for right now. If anything changes, the rec department will let us know. The drive-in movie is also canceled. What else do I have? Bond news. So at our last meeting, we voted to consolidate our bonds. And on August 6th, the borough held a competitive sale for the bond in the amount of $6,820,000 for general improvements. The borough received 6 bids, and Robert W. Baird was the winning bidder, with a net interest cost of 1.184%. The bonds will mature over 12 years, with interest rates ranging from 1% to 1.5%. The initial projections that were done had us at much higher levels, at a rate closer during during COVID-19, the rates were a lot higher. So the borough is going to result in a savings of $629,175 over those projections. It will be costing us $565,700 over the life of the bonds. So we are saving almost $100,000 because of the good interest rates. And one of the reasons that we are getting the better interest rate is because we still have, the borough is in very good shape financially, and we still have our AA+ rating with Standard & Poor's, and we're just in good shape financially. The CFO is very happy. I spoke with her today. Tax collection is finished as of yesterday. If you're paying today forward, there will be finance charges added, and I had a discussion with her. A lot of people go to the CFO and ask her to waive the finance charges. Statutorily, they are not able to waive the finance charges. Lauren, our CFO, had explained to me that a couple of people called today and they were upset because something came up and they couldn't use our website or whatever, and they have to pay their finance charges on the interest rate, I'm using the wrong word, their interest rate on their taxes if they didn't pay on time. She's explained to me that there have been deaths where people didn't pay taxes, where there's been people that have been in the hospital, and she feels very bad, but there's no state statute that permits us to not charge the interest rate. So if you did not pay your taxes, unfortunately, you do have to pay the interest rate. So if you didn't pay them, please call her up and make a payment plan with her, and she'll be able to help you out in terms of budgeting in order to keep the rates as low as possible. So I reached out to Kevin Settembrino a couple of weeks ago, and I just had a frank discussion with him, and I asked him if, due to COVID-19 and the ability of people to telecommute, whether his professional opinion as an architect was, do we need to revisit the Borough Hall project in terms of money spent and square footage? And he put together a spreadsheet for us. Do you have that?
The spreadsheet is downstairs, and I'm going to send it to everybody in an email as opposed to, I can print it up at the break. But he just sent it to me, they were still working on it at the end.
Okay. So he's putting together a short spreadsheet showing us that if we said to him, after COVID, we understand what's going on. I mean, we've already got the down payment. We've already got a way to pay for this, correct, Rob?
Yes.
But in case we wanted to go just a little bit smaller on the building or something like that to have a savings pass to the taxpayers, it would incur us more money in order for the design because he's already done the schematics, first of all. And in the discussion that I had with him, he said the only areas that really would even be made smaller would be the new building. And the police are the only department that really didn't work from home. So it wouldn't really save us anything in order to make the police department smaller because they're the ones that are coming to work. So the footprint of this building isn't being touched. So the square footage is the square footage. The only thing that we could take away would be we had initially said that we wanted to dig a basement in the new area and not necessarily finish it at this time and use it just as extra space for whatever might come forward as time passes, that it would be less expensive to dig that basement now than to do it later once the building is up. So he putting together a spreadsheet that Rob is going to hand out before the end of the meeting to everyone. And then at our next meeting, I think that we should give Kevin, he needs a very high-level direction and very specific of what we want to do. And then we're going to pull the trigger and start the project if there's no changes after September 1st's meeting.
I can add.
So we have to, sorry?
I said I can add a few things to
Okay,
that.
go ahead.
Yeah. So basically what he said, there's going to be 6 different scenarios that'll be in the spreadsheet that I'll show you. He also stated that if we wait longer, obviously, as costs go up every year, they generally project 5%. So whatever your projection was for, a $12 million building, if you wait, you can add the 5% and going forward, as the longer you wait for the project to start. If you take things off and certain things that they're going to, instead of being a basement and 2 stories, there may only be 2 stories. There also may be part of the parking spots that were being, put outside, that they were looking to put more spots. There would be less spots. Some of those things, those are the things that you'll be seeing on that. He's asked that if you would reach out to the mayor, myself, and him with any questions, individually, of course, so this way there is no problem with anybody saying that we're sending something that everybody, this way it's individual conversation. And then at that point on September 1st at the meeting, we would come back and ask the council's opinion of which one that they would recommend, either stay with currently where we are, with what we've already put in, or, lower, or make it small, if that's what so you're privy of what your decision would be. At that point, once that is in place, that would be where Kevin is going to want to move forward because of trying to keep the cost, in line.
It's not that he wants to move forward, he's recommending we move forward.
Absolutely.
To keep the costs down.
Because he wants to keep he doesn't want that extra 5%, because the longer we wait, the more expensive the project will become. Yes.
So we're gonna vote on the first?
You will vote on the first, on which of the 6, he has put 6 in a spreadsheet for us to look at of what would happen if you cut X amount out, what would happen on that amount? If you cut this amount out, if you add, because of what's going to happen, if you wait too long, what the cost would be of adding, on the time frame. So those are the things he's going to show you. You'll be able to pick what your thoughts are, and then we can basically go forward, to move forward with the project at that point.
Rob, would that require any input from, say, the police or any other department?
Well, I think at that point, once we decide as the borough, of what you want to do, at that point, then it would be associated, then you would reach out to those department heads, because again, the way it was going to be established, if you remember the last time, and Kevin recommended, is that we would pick the project. Once that's done, then he would meet individually with each department head based off what the decision the council would make on the project. Then he would meet with finance, then he would meet with the police, then he would meet with whoever, based off what the changes he might have to make on your recommendations.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, what does everybody think? We're going through COVID-19. A lot of people have lost their jobs. So I just want to have a conversation. I mean, we should still go through with it. Obviously, we're already committed to it by paying the architect, but we didn't know COVID was going to happen. And I understand, and I know you all understand, and we feel badly that some people have lost their jobs or been furloughed for the time being. We're hoping that the economy is coming back. It looks like it's coming back. But we don't want to build, a building and a hardship on our taxpayers if we can do something smaller. But we have to see if it's actually feasible. We have to check with the police chief and see whether, rooms that are just a little bit smaller would accommodate them still, and see if it's feasible to do that. Does anyone have any other comment? Councilman Gordon.
Don't they need the facility, the police department?
We're still building it.
Yeah, I know, we're behind though in times for the police department.
Yes.
So I can't see that shrinking. To shrink one room, I can't see that being saving any money. Losing a whole floor, like Rob said, then yeah, you're talking about saving some money.
Well, that's what the spreadsheet is going to show
Okay.
us. So that's what, I don't know that, so that's why I just asked him for any recommendations for us to make a hard decision about moving forward. And then once we do that on September 1st, then we keep going with it.
I mean, kind of on like what Brian said, we're already, in terms of the police department, the standards we're already
Behind the times?
what's the word I'm trying to think?
Not up to code.
Thank you. We're already not up to code with the certain standards that the police gate for the building, so to say we're going to hold off, we're already behind the eight ball. I don't think we actually can, because we have to fulfill certain standards anyway through the state.
And if we kick it down the road a bit, it's going to be more expensive.
Right.
Yes, that's the point that Kevin's making.
That's why I wanted him to do a spreadsheet
Right.
and show everything to us so that we knew that we were really making the right decision and not moving forward and not looking at every aspect after COVID and people telecommuting and make sure that it is still right for the borough to continue.
Did we already take a vote?
We already voted to pay his fee.
Yeah.
So we're already
But, I mean,
married to the project,
did we
or at
vote
least to the
to
architect.
accept the project, the specifications of the project? Didn't we already clear that for Kevin to get started?
Well, what we voted on was the size of the project at first, over the $12 million, all right? That has been, we put that in as for the down payment for the bond. That's already part of it. That's what we've already allocated along with, part of his, his cost of what is going to be associated with that. But what we haven't done is sit down and say, okay, even though we've pushed that forward and said, yes, all right, go for it. Like, this is what we definitely want you to, start the project and where you're at. That's what he wants at the next meeting, because at that point, he has to start doing drawings and doing, recommendations, because I want to also have you understand, if you do make this building smaller, all right, and it won't be this building, it would only be the addition. If you do that, once he starts making new designs to what we were going to do, it's going to cost more money based off those designs of what he's doing. It may save overall on the project if we go from a $12 million building to an $11 million building. Yes, overall we'd potentially save there, but he is going to charge you more based off the contract that we already signed for $749,000 is not part of making new renovations to a smaller building. So that will be an additional cost regardless of if we do go smaller. So that's something to be taken into account also.
Would that be a question that we could ask him? Because how much of a cost, if we decide to go smaller and save $2 million, how much is he going to charge to change a plan?
Yeah,
A couple thousand
Well,
versus $2 million?
yeah, no, understand. That's what I'm saying. That's what he's doing, but he's just going to tell you this way. If I come back to you and tell you that it's going to cost you $35,000 more for his renovations, all right, we have to pay the $35,000 to do that work. That's part of it. So, but yes, overall, the life, if it goes from 12 to 10, yeah, you save $2 million though in net.
And you've said we have the money, right?
We have set that, we've already set aside for the down payment for the bond, yeah.
What do we have proposed for the basement?
What do we have proposed for the basement? Does anyone recall?
So,
We proposed that we would just dig it out and
Storage?
leave it as a rough room, not finished at the time being, because so that it would already be dug out. And then if the chief said we need more room for storage or for
a conference room
or for what's it
Shooting
called
range?
where you keep all the paraphernalia.
No,
Originally, it was supposed to be a black and male, female, upper room, auxiliary, police room, a attorney room, and,
Well, that wasn't all in the basement.
And I mentioned going where we need to further
Evidence room, that's the word I'm looking for.
Right.
Just a room that, and then if need be, if the ambulance corps needed more space, we split the room. But it was supposed to be an unfinished room, but dug out so that we didn't have to go to a greater expense. John is here, I don't know how to get him into the building.
okay. Well, he's supposed to be on the state dispatch, was supposed to be to push the intercom so that they can let him in.
Thought I was going home early.
Okay?
11:30, here we come.
No.
I think the chief went to let him in.
Uh-huh.
We're telling the meeting was over.
All right, let's just wait a couple of seconds, see if he gets in here. Or unless you want to start your report,
I'll start my report. I was going to let you finish.
and you texted Mr. Gibson.
Yes.
Okay.
So the first thing I gave you was, and I'll go through this quickly because, on this one. The first thing, if you look at this piece of paper that I sent you,
Yeah, what is that?
it's an example of a sufficient labor justification.
Of a what?
So, an example of sufficient labor justification that was given to us from the county through the CARES Act. So once we are looking for reimbursement and how we get reimbursed, and we have already received our check from FEMA. All right, the check that we had put in and submitted in through that, we have got our money back. Now we're going through CARES on money that we've spent that we did not go through COVID. Well, the reason why I put this on here is the county used this as an example of of what you should do, of how you should, what justifications in order to make. If you look on the left-hand side from where on my sheet, that is from our DPW, and this is also,
Good.
yeah,
Check.
check his temp. Yeah.
And our visitor. Welcome. Everybody's good? Okay. Continue, sorry.
So if you look at the sheet is given, that they use this as an example for every other town. This is Emerson. This is our sheet. So this is our CFO and our DPW. This is what they've done. This is how they did it for justification. And the county is basically giving accolades to our CFO and to our DPW on how they did this, that this is exactly what you should be asking for, because many, many people are putting in and are not getting not getting paid because they do not have proper justification for their, and so this was something that when was given, we actually crowed a little bit, looking in, our CFO, was a little, he said, "That's my work." And Perry, and that's Perry's autograph that is, that was put out, so.
And they used it as the example.
They use it as the example for the other 70 towns to show of how to do that. So that was it's a nice little thing to say that about Emerson.
I'm very
So
proud that we do things right here. We always do things right, and we strive to do things right.
we do our best to try. So that leads me to a couple of things. First, we had a couple of complaints over our train intercom, that it got very, very loud for some reason, and that it was started to be turned up. You could hear it, and hear it almost all day long. The trains were coming in, and when they were coming in, and what was happening. We were getting complaints from our residents in regards to this. I did reach out to our contact at NJ Transit. That has been rectified. I received a email today from one of the individuals who was giving us the complaint and said, "I just want you to know, I don't know what you did, but over the last couple of days, it's gone." So I want to thank you for what happened. So I want to thank NJ Transit for doing what they were supposed to do in order to make this easier for our residents, so we do not have to hear this on a regular basis, which is great. And if anybody does continue to hear this or something happens again, please reach out to us and let us know so that we can reach out again to NJ Transit to let them know about this. FiOS and Optimum and power, if there's anybody who still is currently without power or without, from FiOS or no FiOS and no Optimum, please let us know. We had a meeting with the congressman, who is reaching out via teleconference with, reaching out to FiOS and to Optimum, finding out who was still out and where they were out and why they were out, to go through to help those individuals. And some of them are individual cases, so it's not just one line, it's just the actual house, and that they're actually going to the houses to help them to get that put back online. So if there's anyone there, please reach out to us, to myself, R. Hermanson at emersonnj.org or administrator at emersonnj.org.
Or they can just call Jane as well.
Right, but just, let us know, and we'll go from there.
Jane loves talking to residents.
We talked about Kevin Santabrino, so now it leads us to Samba safety discussion. So my Samba safety discussion is about our driver's licenses, and driver's license, we have to go in and check everybody's driver's license for our volunteers, our workers, and so forth every year. So I've reached out to a company called Samba Safety. They have got a process in place that I'm going to give you an update and put everything so that you can have it for the next meeting. We're going to put it on for discussion for the next meeting, potentially to either hire Samba Safety or another company. Basically, what they will do, Samba Safety can either do it once a year, or they can actively, go through and put it on a regular basis on people who are actively driving. So for our DPW workers, ourselves as opposed to volunteers and things in the town, they can also do it for volunteers. But the more that we have them check on a regular basis, the more expensive it becomes. But I will tell you that it is a reasonable cost. All right, what I see on this. But it is going to be more of an expense. We used to have our police department used to do these, but they cannot do that anymore. They're not That's not allowed. So we now have to go through a different process. And so this is one of the companies that we've looked at, and I like what they've shown me so far. But we have to look at other companies also for costs. And but like I said, at the next meeting, I'm going to put that on the agenda. Put that on for the agenda so that we can discuss this for what we need for checking our driver's licenses for volunteers and workers and so forth. Firehouse floor update. I have some pictures I'm going to send to the council. I meant to get them out to you today. It just, time gets away from you and so much that goes on. And so with that, I will have those out. I will send them to you of what's going on. There was some, one of the issues that we had that they were concerned about was potentially a conduit that was running underneath the floor. At one point, there was one conduit they weren't sure, and they weren't sure if it was live or not. And they found out that it probably is live because some of the things that were working before are no longer working. So, but that was on it. They knew it was there. They knew it might be a possibility. And as you cut the concrete, that they weren't sure what was going to happen. But as they cut it, the fire chief said, some of my stuff went out. So they know what it is, and they will take care of that to get that together.
They damaged equipment?
No, there's a line. There was a line under the ground. They knew it was there, and they knew that there was a possibility. They all thought that the line was most likely a dead line, but they weren't positive.
Oh, a phone line?
No, electrical line.
No, electric
And so
line.
Cut electric.
Yeah, they knew. They said that there was possibility that they couldn't tell, and when they went through, they would know, and they went through, and it was that. So that they'll take care of that when they'll repair it, and whatever. But that's the only so far issue that they've had. Everything else has gone, rather smoothly. Of the concrete coming up, they scoured it yesterday at the top to get the part off. They started cutting it today. And if you go over the dumpsters there, and you can see the chunks of concrete, the big chunks that are coming out. And
What hours are they working? I'd like to go take a look.
They're there first thing 8 o'clock in the morning, and they're there till basically 5 o'clock at night.
Okay.
So
Brian,
next. I do recommend that after one of the things that was being said, what we discussed on the codification, I'm going to tie in that I do believe that there should be an ordinance committee in the borough. We talked about this before. I'm going to talk about it again, and I'm going to keep talking about this until you get an ordinance committee here, because some of the things that we did look at these at the codification, when you look at what they did a deep dive. But some of the things that they see are going to be language that is very similar to other things that should not be here anymore. Okay, we just shouldn't use them here because they're using them in other boroughs or towns, so it doesn't necessarily recognize that it should be something different. I would recommend that you start going through some of the ones that are not changed or had not been changed or you had not seen a change on, and look at those. And Jane and I had talked about, I've seen Jane and Colleen working hours upon hours upon hours, two of them going through the process of looking at it, deciding where it is. So this codification and the amount of money that we've spent, I think has been money well spent. And I do believe that there has been some, very good stuff that's come out of this. And, can there be other things that they may have been able to do that they may have missed? Sure. But I think it's because of how much, how deep this is that they're going. And what they have to do. So I am highly still recommending an ordinance committee, and that would, come from the council or the mayor.
May I interrupt 1 second?
Yes.
Let the record reflect that Borough Attorney John McCann arrived at approximately 9 p.m.
I want to thank the police, the DPW, our OEM, and everyone. There was many late-night phone calls for both myself, the OEM, the mayor, along with the police.
late night, morning, afternoon.
Yeah.
Ignition.
There was one email that I sent out at 2:30 in the morning, all right, because just the way it was just done, the way things were going on and things were happening. There was a lot. The storm was crazy. Thank God it was quick. If it had lingered and stayed over, I could only imagine how much more damage would have been done here. But I want to, the cleanup and how fast the cleanup went, the way the traffic was done and the way that people organized and worked together. I want to thank Jane too. Jane had a phone call that she left here not at her regular time, because regular time is never regular time for Jane. She's always either working early or late. Left here, was doing something else, and got a phone call to make a swift reach call because our
Which is
OEM
a great
coordinator.
segue into what happened, because there was
I'm getting there.
message that went out that told the whole town that they were going to be losing power from 5:30 to 8:30. And then there was another phone call that came in that said, oh no, it's only going to be the grid off of Old Hook Road. And everyone was alarmed, everybody was upset, and they were saying that they had to do it in order to turn the electric off, in order to fix it and bring it back up so that everyone all over town's electric went up. Rob's going to explain how the series of events happened.
Yep.
I had one email from someone who was very upset, said that we gave out erroneous information. We were on top of it. We wanted to make sure that the residents knew, and we were given the bad information, and we unfortunately passed it on to our residents, and we apologize for that, but it was not our mistake. We can only go with the best information that is given to us. And in order to ensure that everybody had to do what they needed to do as quickly as they did before the power went out, Jane had to stop everything, go home, send out the swift reach, and then ultimately we had to send out another swift reach. I think Mark Savino sent it out, right? In order to correct it so that people understood if they had the power, they would still have their power.
But that was what I
Do you
was...
want to say what
Yeah.
actually happened?
I'm going
now,
to,
the
and that's what I was going to
series
say,
of
and that's why I was thanking Jane, because Jane was on her time, left, did what she had to do to get home in order for the residents to get that call, to let them know what was going on.
Thank you, Jane.
And that didn't, because our OEM coordinator, who was trying to make that swift reach call, was on a fire call because of things that were going on with the situation in town. So he couldn't make the call. Jane was next. He reached out. Jane did it as she always does. And that leads me to a couple things that did happen. So at about 4:45, Matt Tiedemann, who is the head of the PSOC Information Center at Mahwah for the county, reached out and had received the call, and an individual what they have is a war room there. As things that are going on, you have people who show up from Orange and Rockland, PSE&G, Optimum. Everyone is there trying to get the call so they can work together with the county to let them know what's going on. I have been inside that when that's happened through Sandy, and so I kind of know what goes on and seen how it operates and what they've done. And there are many late nights. They're there all night going through the process of trying to make sure that people are getting their power back up. And it's an extremely fluid situation because things change on a dime and things are happening, especially when it's power going up and they're trying to get power to the most important sections of the town, to hospitals and to our long-term care facility centers. So they make decisions of what has to go up. What happened and occurred there was one of the individuals who was in from PSE&G came over and said to Matt, "I'm letting you know, Emerson is going to go down from 5:30 to 8:30 the entire town." And the reason why we say it's going to be the entire town is that in order to bring the town down, there are people who are without power right now that in order to get them power, we have to bring everyone down to bring them all up at the same time. By bringing them up all at the same time, we will then know if there's other areas that there's still a problem, or if they have maybe a transformer put a problem or something going on, so that we can work on those areas as we're bringing it back up again. So the call went out, and at that time, as the call was going out to OEM, because Matt Tiedemann reached out directly to our OEM, which is where his point of contact would be, I was getting a phone call from our point of contact from our governmental relation from PSE&G telling me we're only taking down Old Hook Road on the grid on Old Hook, and that the grid on Old Hook was going down, and that there may be some other houses to go down based off that in order to get everybody up on Lincoln Boulevard and certain areas that might have to go down. So in order to do this, though, when I spoke to our OEM, and he was speaking then when he spoke to Jane, Matt Tiedemann said to him, though, listen, the power may not go down. It may not be everyone, but they're telling us it could be everyone because we want everyone to prepare if the power goes down. So we're telling everyone that the power is going down. So when the call went out as saying that the power was going completely down. Then it didn't go all down for everybody. It actually waited later. It took longer than 5:30 because of things that were happening, and at about 6:15, 6:30, the power did go down on that grid on Old Hook. Once the power did go down, some houses didn't, and now there were some, what's going on? My power is not down, what happened?
And
Well-
instead of getting complaints, I want to thank Mark and I want to thank Jane for acting as quickly as they did, because if the power had gone out, they did it in under about 20 minutes to get a message out to the whole town to alert them in case there was a medical issue or they had to make plans. So, what could have been, a bigger problem, really, because of the miscommunication, turned into a small problem for one section of town. So I'm just grateful that we have a staff that when they leave the building, they're still working, and that they are indebted to the people of Emerson, and that they are willing to go that extra mile all the time. And I really do appreciate that. Thank you, Jane.
So then what occurred was, power didn't go out in certain areas. We reached out to PSE&G again. Mark then reached out back to the county and said, look, the whole town isn't down. There's, only certain sections. They reached the person who was in the war room and said, look, if those people who did not go down now, they're not going to go down, okay? So you can let everyone know that. Matt reached back out to, Mark. Mark then reached back out and said, you know what, well, let me put that call out to everybody to let them know that those who don't have, who didn't go down are not going down. And sure enough, the swift reach call went out, all right, to inform everyone.
Good.
Then PSE&G announced that in order to get everybody back online, they took some of the people down who had not been down yet in order to bring everyone up. They brought them down. That in turn, we received a couple of phone calls. Then, why is my power down now when I just got a call telling me it wasn't going to go down? It was supposed to be back up by 8:30. It's not up. But when power did go back up around 10:45, everybody who, unless they had an individual power situation, except for 3 streets, Vivian, Powell, and Congress, all went back up. And everybody in the town then had power. At that point, we did not receive any more, complaints or concerns because the people all had power. And as PSE&G was explaining, and as Mark was explaining, and as we all tried to explain, it is very fluid. They are trying to do the best they can to get everybody power. So in order to get us information of what's going to happen very quickly, some things they are not going to tell you in order to get it done as quickly as possible. They did do that. The power did go on. And yes, could the communication, I feel, from PSE&G on some of the things that happened there have been a little better? Yes. But ultimately, the reason why they were doing what they were doing was to work as hard as possible to get as many residents here in Emerson their power, and that was accomplished.
That's true, and I do want to thank Donette Veerley, because she took all of my phone calls throughout the week and through the storm. We were on the phone a couple of times after 11 o'clock. She was returning calls from teleconferencing from her telecommuting from her home, and she really was able to assist me or help me in order to help our residents in order to get different situations resolved, where there were trees on cars and wires were tangled. So we're fortunate that we have Donette at PSE&G that was able to assist the borough like that also.
Yeah, Wednesday evening at 11:30, I was on the phone with her after the mayor speaking to her. So it was very nice that there was full access to everybody that was going on. And like I said,
and then they brought all the crews in from out of state, of course, so we're grateful for them as well.
So it's very
That's good on the
difficult to get,
storm.
and like I
Do you
said,
have
and at
anything
the end
else
of the
in your
day,
report, Rob?
no, I think I will leave everything, I think
All right,
that
good.
solves
So
where
then,
we are.
let's go back to the first item under unfinished business when we went out of order. Do we have to do a motion to go back there, or okay?
Nothing
So-
when I heard you said you wanted
Yeah,
to
we took
read
the
it.
motion to rearrange the thing. All right, so now we're going back to unfinished business, discussion of appropriate authority. Who is starting that discussion?
I'd like to start a discussion.
Okay.
What, can we take the good ones first?
No, we have to go into closed session for that.
Oh, we're done, sorry.
Am I all right? Yeah, I'm all right. You all right? You tired?
I'm tired too. I'm good.
You said you wanted to start.
Well, I want to know if we should take care of that first. Yeah, that was.
Oh, I thought you were going to start this.
No, it was.
Sorry.
It was more like a question.
Okay. Anyone? Appropriate authority.
Oh, I mean, I was waiting, I know we received a memo today. The past couple of meetings, we've discussed the appropriate authority. I know for myself, as a councilwoman, my intention when we found out there was an error in the ordinance was that we could try to rectify it the best way possible in compliance to restore the intended appropriate authority, like as it was originally intended, with 2 council members and our administrator. And that's what I was hoping, that's where we're moving towards right now. And so we received the memo, and you helped explaining some of the issues, and pretty much for me, my request would be what can we do to move forward to restore the appropriate authority with the 2 council members in whatever capacity they are, committee members, commissioners, whatever, and the administrator, so we can move forward.
Sure. So, you have to decide, the governing body has to decide how you want to do this. As proposed, for the reasons stated in the memo, are pretty obvious. So, you have to decide if you want to split out the committee, create a police committee, and then...
Just the police.
Just the police committee, okay? And you can appoint the police committee as the appropriate authority. Or, even simpler, it could be the mayor at the Sunday or whenever can appoint 2 council members to the appropriate authority and amend that section, -3 appropriately. It doesn't have to be a
So
committee.
still have a police committee that, well, we have to change the police committee because in your memo you told us you can't be...
You shouldn't have the police committee, it's not a problem with the auxiliary police, but your OEM, arguable, courts, absolutely not. It's a separation of powers issue.
So at our sign guide, we need to change our committee formation.
You could do that, or, as I said, it's
Or
simple.
really at our reorg.
It's your reorg, or you could change laws, but you can simply just appoint 2 council people to, you don't need a committee, you could just say, Councilman Gordon, Councilman Rob Hermanson, or how the appropriate authority. That's all you have to do. Pretty simple. Right? In that way, it's just an appointment to the
But we
appropriate
still
authority.
have to correct the ordinance.
100%.
The ordinance.
Because the
So,
ordinance doesn't read that way.
okay. So what came first, the chicken or the egg? Are you going to fix the ordinance first, and then we're going to make I'm going to make the appointment? Or,
Well, you do both. You can do both in the same meeting.
all right, so how does everybody want to do it?
I wonder how many more meetings we're gonna go through with this crap. Sorry.
Well, what's your decision? How do you want to do it?
I don't know, let's vote on it tonight. This is going on our 4th week. It's an ordinance, you have to. I understand that, but it's been 3 weeks. I'm not a lawyer, but I know what jobs need to be done. So in 3 weeks. And I'm dealing with the borough council. We should be at a point, though, where we're voting on it. No, because the borough council at the last meeting that I was not at said that if I wasn't okay with it, they wanted a report. And that's what I didn't. So I'm doing exactly as ordered by the council. Okay? Yeah. So
So now,
unfortunately, I couldn't be at the last meeting. And through communication, I had to go back and review every word of the prior meeting in light of some of the communications I received. So I reviewed it. I did as I said I would do in the previous meeting. I said I would take a look at it. I said to the mayor 2 years ago, and I said to this council at the meeting before that I was at, the appropriate authority is a tricky ordinance. It's not simple. In fact, don't the towns have it? Well, what do you mean? Because they go through the process. What you discovered here... Can we just use their ordinance? No, because you don't know if their ordinance is right. The lawyer write their ordinance? I don't know who wrote their ordinance. I can't comment. I don't have no idea. All I know is that what you have now has been pointed out, not what you thought you had. Everyone thought that there was an appropriate authority with 2 council people. Who changed it? I have no idea. This goes back to 2005 or 6 or something for that. And when they changed it, this is why you don't rely on other towns. Because you can't even rely on this guy.
If you recall, our ordinance, I believe, for the appropriate authority said it was the police commissioner and the,
And the police commissioner and the deputy
and
commissioner,
the deputy, and we don't have
and you don't have
commissioners.
commissioners.
So that's what started this whole thing, so the ordinance is
No one knew
wrong.
that. No one knew that. So your ordinance is wrong.
So
And
can
that's
we
why you can't rely on other towns, Councilman, because
So-
other towns could be wrong
So
too.
can't we just amend the ordinance to change it to 2 council members? They're on the
I just
committee, they work
suggested
with the police chief,
Right.
and that's
So-
that.
and that's what I
So is
suggested.
it as easy as saying, John, could you write an ordinance that defines the police, appropriate authority as 2 council members and the borough administrator?
Sure.
Is that it?
That's it. That's all you got to do.
Okay. John, could you please write an ordinance for our next meeting that defines the appropriate authority as 2 council members as well as the, borough administrator?
It's right here.
Is everyone good with that?
Right here.
Yes,
That paragraph's the problem.
Yes,
So,
my-
we'll fix it.
my question is, does there also have to be something in the ordinance that
I'm sorry,
says,
I can't hear you, Councilman.
because I have a allergy and
Oh,
I
I'm
can
sorry.
barely talk.
Yep.
How's this? Does there also have to be something in the ordinance that says the process of the appointment, in other words, mayor with the council's advice and consent? Does that have to be in the ordinance? Does that go in the bylaws? How is that done?
So, go ahead, question.
I like what you said.
It's the mic, it's the mic.
The mayor appoint. Pat, use the mic. I like what John said, that to make it simple, have the mayor appoint 2 people. And it's just cut and dry, that's it.
But how is that? My question is, Pat, does that have to be that wording have to be in the ordinance, in the bylaws? It
Yes.
has to be somewhere.
Yes, yeah.
Has to be somewhere.
That's how I understood it.
So you're gonna create a new ordinance that does not conflict with state statute, that defines who the appropriate authority is, take out the words commissioner, put in 2 council members with the borough administrator, and then write the appropriate ordinance that defines the appropriate authority and what their duties are. Okay?
And this also includes a police representative, it would be the chief.
I'm sorry, can you speak up?
Yes,
Sorry.
so we have 2 council, members,
Right,
the borough administrator and the police chief.
correct. Well, the police chief is not the appropriate authority. He reports monthly or minimally monthly or whatever
Reports to the
other
three.
reports that you require to the appropriate authority.
Thank you.
I do have another question, which is, can those 2 members who are appointed to the appropriate authority also be on the police committee?
I would not like that, the way the current structure is with that ordinance in the, not the ordinance, but the bylaws where the committee is combined with the courts. You could do whatever you want. I just don't think that that's a smart, that's not, I think, the right way to go. Because let me explain. When I talk about structural problems, I'm talking about department names, committee names. That's the first, in the Police Chief Responsibility Act, the first line of attack or reasoning on it for constitutional structure is the actual structure of the names of the committees. That's why the courts is the issue. Then the subtextual legal attack is the actual members. Now, it depends upon the judge. There are people who recognize there are towns with smaller number of people on a council, right? So that subtextual argument of who's actually on it is not as substantive as important. It is important, but not as important as the structure, the structural names itself. So, you could do it that way. I don't say I am opposed to it. I just don't. My brain says I would rather not do it that way. If there's a better way if there's a way of doing it, just putting other people on it, switching things on, whatever you guys want to do, it would be the best way to
I
go.
have another question.
Yeah.
Is it necessary to have a police committee and an appropriate authority? Do they have different functions, or?
Different functions, because, and
So
that,
the police committee can still do what they're doing right now, where they're giving the report from the police department and being a liaison to the police department and giving the information like Councilman McGuire and Councilman Gordon did.
Sure.
But then the appropriate authority would be more of the policy, suggestion making,
rules and regulations.
regulation.
Being aware of new things. The biggest thing the appropriate authority can do
And, you know, the chief will tell you from the Chiefs Police Association, they are, particularly the last 6 months, they are constantly getting new things, new statutes come up, new things occur in the law as it relates to arbitration and all kinds of labor stuff. So the best thing that a working appropriate authority does is the chief keeps them apprised of these potential policy changes, because they don't really, that's really the organization that pays attention to policy changes, the Police Chiefs Association. We don't have a council appropriate authority association that keeps apprised of all the changes. He's the guy, right, Chief? You agree with that? Yeah, so, and that's how it would work.
I have another question. So, as far as, as opposed to separating the police committee and appropriate authority, why don't we just make a court committee? And keep the police committee, appropriate authority, and then a court committee?
You could do it whatever you want.
That's what I would suggest.
But can we change that, because we did it at our Sinai now, in the middle of the year?
That's a separate question. I don't have a problem. I do kind of have a problem with changing the bylaws, and really you can do it. There's nothing that says you can't. So, there is some issues out there that float in stupid world, as I call it, depending upon the judge, but you can change the bylaws. But you have to tell me how you want me to write this ordinance. If you want me to write it the way she's suggesting, or the way anyone...
Councilman Argenti, I just want to
I have two
Yeah,
questions. One,
yeah.
do we currently have, we have the appropriate authority and a separate...
I'm sorry, I couldn't...
Do we currently have the appropriate authority and two separate other committee members for the council, like Brian, or they were... I think what the whole issue was they were calling Jill and Brian the appropriate authority. So that's where she came into this discussion.
Right.
So my other question is then, do you have to then have two committees? Can't you just have the administrator, the mayor, the police chief, the OEM, all the people that are supposed to know the bylaws and the laws and the structures meet regarding that, and then you have the two council members that just stay on the police committee and report issues to the mayor and council from that meeting?
I'm sorry, I was in the car a long time. I'm not sure what you said. If anyone can you say that again? I mean, I'm not sure what...
It was a mouthful. So currently we only have one committee, whatever.
But one member on an appropriate authority.
No, there's two council
On
members.
the
They're not-
committee, and
On
then
the
you have,
committee.
right now, the only person on the appropriate authority
Is Rob Hermanson to me.
That's right. So that's what I'm saying. So if Rob is on it, and Rob meets regarding it, and can't the two committee members stay on the police committee to discuss what the police, has issues with, or what he wants them to bring back to mayor and council as liaisons, correct? And then keep the chief, the administrator, maybe involve the mayor.
No, it can't be the mayor
So
either.
then whoever is the ones that are supposed to be up to the standards of the changes, the governing changes.
So you're saying only the appropriate authority should remain just the administrator?
Well, personally, I agree
There's a
with Jill in the
difference between
sense where
appropriate
it should not be a
authority
council
and
member, because
I think it should be. I think the appropriate authority as intended originally was a police commissioner, and it seems to my understanding, I think there was a misunderstanding that people thought the police liaisons were also the police commissioner, and they were meeting as,
No one ever thought that the police committee was a police commission.
they were meeting as the
We
appropriate
didn't,
authority.
But that's where we realized the mistake was, is that it said commissioner when we went to look at
Right,
it.
I mean, I was asked by this governing
No one
body.
was appointed police commissioner, a police committee
Correct.
was.
Correct, but
They have to be recognized by
I
the
think we
mayor.
should just remove the courts and make it a separate
Chief,
committee.
if you'd like to come up and
Could you-
join us,
Yeah,
please
I know.
do. Can you give him a mic?
I'm not gonna say what should...
Can you project? I think you can do that.
I'm sorry.
He can project.
I can clear it up, and like I said, I could just tell you the way it's been working, whether you think it should be or not. It's only been the appropriate authority consisting of the borough administrator, what was presumed to be police commissioners, police commissioner, deputy police commissioner. They were recognized throughout the years that way, whether it was right or wrong, that everyone was understanding. I've talked to many of them since this whole conversation, and they all thought that they were police commissioners. They actually have badges to show that they're police commissioners. Whether it was right or wrong, I'm not saying that. I've never had another...
They have badges?
Yeah.
You gave them badges?
No, actually...
2 years.
One chief,
Well, I want to...
one chief did give give a badge to one of them.
Yeah.
The others got their own badges.
You can get your own badge?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
So I've never had a police committee.
That's why we
My
shouldn't have
police
commissions.
committee was my appropriate authority. I think the biggest difference was the appropriate authority has oversight over the police chief, which they should have.
The what has oversight over the police chief?
Has oversight.
The committee, you mean?
Over the.
Appropriate authority.
Your appropriate authority, yes.
Okay, so I meet with them monthly, I update them. They have a right to know what I do within my department. All right? A police committee member is not that person. So they make the rules and regulations, like I said, they make, help make policies, any disciplinary actions that are major, the appropriate authority would be the ones that I answer to.
But they suggest it, they don't make the policy. The governing body makes the policy. They're part of the policy-making body.
All the rules and regulations are actually being done by the Rogers Group.
Right.
Which will, once completed, be given to you to read and.
Right.
Once it's in place, those are the rules that I have to follow in order to hold my officers accountable if they do something wrong. All right, so that's the appropriate authority. The appropriate authority is also involved with hiring, with promotions. It's different than a police committee. I've never had a separate police committee, whether it's right or wrong. I've only had 3 members. 2 were council people, and 1 was a third administrator. That's how it's always been, and that's how we've always done business. I would like to continue to do business that way. However, we have to write it up. We would appreciate it if you could just write it up that way, so it's definitive that way. John, I'm sorry, McCann.
You threw your John.
As far as is it necessary to have a police committee? Like I said, I've always done
No.
business with just the appropriate authority.
No, Chief, in fact, at the last meeting that I attended, when this issue came up, you stated perfectly clearly that there's no existing problems, that everything was good as it was functioning. And you made that representation, and I took that, and then we said that we would discuss it at the next meeting, and unfortunately, I was unavailable for 2.5 weeks. And I came back, and then we got hit with the lightning storm. Whatever that tornado was, whatever. I think Ken said it was one of the worst storms he's ever seen. We didn't get our power. We lost our power till like early Friday morning. So, when I went back and looked at the tape of the meeting said that we should proceed with this ordinance if I didn't have a problem with it. And as the suggested ordinance that came through for passage tonight, there's an issue, and it's a legitimate issue, and it's a substantive issue, and it's a potential disaster, and I prefer to avoid those. So, here's what you have to know to understand how you guys write it up. You can't have separate branches of government essentially on that committee. So, you can say the mayor's going to be on it. But then you can't put a council person on it, because the mayor is considered the executive branch. So if you put council people on it, okay, that's the legislative branch. There can be no executive branch, okay?
So you're saying the mayor could be on it if it was just the mayor?
Yes,
But it can't be mixing the mayor, the legislative with the executive?
exactly. Or other branches of government, as in this case with the courts. So,
I just have one question. Those two, the appropriate authority were those 3 members, the police committees were the 2
commissioners, right?
That's how it's always done.
Right. But back in I think it was 2009, Chief, the borough changed it, because there was an issue with the badges or something.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
that not police commissioners.
Right.
I'm just saying,
Right.
can we set it up the same way? The appropriate authority is the same 3 people, and the police committee are the 2 police liaisons, or whoever you decide, the mayor decides at a reorg, or his or her reorg meeting. If this is not for right now, this is forever.
Right.
All right?
Right.
I already spoke to the captain, I spoke to the lieutenant, they prefer to keep it the way that we've been.
Right.
So I kind of think if we keep it simple and just make the appropriate authority the 3 members, the police committee are the two council people that are decided by the mayor at the reorg meeting.
Oh, so I'm a little, so.
Isn't that what you said?
Is that,
That's what I said.
that's what,
But the same 3 people is on time.
No,
Well,
we
that's
can
up
take
to
it,
the
I
mayor.
mean, but that would be the structure.
that's up to the mayor and council and how you want
That
to.
way, and like I said, it's always worked.
You can't have, I wouldn't suggest, because Councilman, The answer
Can you have the same, just three people?
that exists on the current courts committee, no.
So we
No.
separate
No.
courts.
No, I'm not talking about police commissioners.
Okay. Can you appoint two council? I said
I
that.
think in January,
People that are from the appropriate authority.
Well, right now, they're on the same
I
committee
think I
with
can
the
fix
police.
this.
That's the
I
problem.
think I can fix this easily. You're gonna write an ordinance that defines it and removes the words commissioners, strike that,
Yes.
and you're gonna define what the appropriate authority is.
But you have to tell me what you
Jane,
want.
you're going to put a tickler on our
No, it's
reorg
not.
meeting. Excuse me, everyone's out of order. Jane, you're gonna put a tickler on the January reorg meeting that we are going to appoint an appropriate authority, and we're going to appoint some other committee we will come up with a name for that does not include the police, but that does include OEM, judiciary, and, auxiliary police. Can we do that? Auxiliary police can't be with the, okay.
No,
So,
Put the police at the court.
so the court, so we're gonna have a liaison to the court, period. And then we're gonna have all right,
That's a good idea.
okay.
Have the
Court
courts completely separate. Yep.
And then we're gonna have, can we put auxiliary OEM, and can the appropriate authority also be the liaisons to OEM and to, or does that have to be separate?
Separate.
All right, so then we're going to appoint a judiciary, we're going to appoint an appropriate authority, which will be 3 people, including the administrator.
So you want to change the bylaws too?
Yes.
Okay.
And then we're going to appoint, another liaison to somebody else that will be for, OEM, auxiliary police. In fact, why don't we just kind of merge either EVAC with OEM and, fire department with like auxiliary police or something and make it more, or we, you know what I'm saying? So we don't have so many different committees.
Right now, those three falls under OEM.
Auxiliary, do they answer to OEM?
Under my budget and whatnot.
That was going to be a question I had for you, yeah.
Okay, so then we'll just have a separate committee for OEM and auxiliary police. And then it works, because judiciary will have theirs, OEM and auxiliary police will have theirs, and then there will be an appropriate authority appointed, not a committee, not a standing committee, an appropriate authority, and then we will also change the bylaws. Is everyone okay with that?
I think so.
And then we're doing everything right as of January.
And the council members that are the appropriate authority can still give like a liaison report here and there.
The what?
The liaison report, like what I did today.
You
stuff
can
with
always,
policing,
the
you
appropriate
gave the
authority,
number.
yeah, so the appropriate
Yeah, you
authority
can still do that.
can always report as you need. You don't have to do it every month. I mean,
Right.
it's what you guys decide you want to do. The appropriate authority, it's important to understand, is an extension of executive and administrative authority.
I read your memo.
Yeah.
I have to read it, what it said. When did it come?
Today.
Morning.
Oh, today?
Yeah.
You get it yet?
No, I did, but I just didn't have time. to
No,
read
it's
it.
Thursday. It's not an easy read either.
No, it wasn't an easy
It
read.
wasn't fun to write. So you guys just tell me what you want, and I'll write it, as long as it's compliant with the scheme that I suggested.
Well, you're gonna write an ordinance that defines the appropriate authority that complies with the statute,
Yes, that's the first
the
checkbox.
duties and responsibilities.
So who is going to be the appropriate authority? That's my question. Is it going to be 2 council people who are appointed?
Yes.
Okay, so, that's good.
And borough administration.
And the borough administrator.
Okay. And they're appointed, correct?
Yes. Take
And,
out the language of commissioners.
yeah.
By whom are they going to be appointed? Is it mayor with consent of council?
Does the statute speak to who appoints the appropriate authority?
No. No. You do whatever you want.
Okay. Well, how do you wanna do it?
That's not what the statute says, though, Ron.
No,
Nothing.
I know what the statute says, but you can do whatever you want.
Does the statute say mayor?
What?
The statute say mayor?
No.
Says council of the police.
It
I
says,
don't think it's anything, does it?
no, it doesn't. That's the point. And hold on, I'll pull it up. Give me a minute. Ordinance may provide for an appointment of chief officers, blah, 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 prescription functions. In such a position is established, any ordinance or rules or regulations shall provide that the chief is, such a position established, shall be the head of the police law enforcement. Any municipal ordinance may create an establishment. So it says the governing body of any, so the governing body is whatever you guys decide.
So it's mayor with council consent.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you could do whatever, it says
That's
governing
kind of the
body.
way we do the other stuff.
Right.
Because when we put together the reorg agenda, I usually do all the appointments, and then you guys consent to whatever I put on paper.
Right, but there,
You could vote it down, or you could just agree to it.
okay, I just want to make it clear, because you,
One person to navigate all the different council people and all the different things. It's just, it would be crazy if everybody was going, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go there, I'm gonna go here,
Right.
I'm gonna go there.
but I mean, there are some appointments that you have just as mayor with no consent.
That's true, but the statute says governing body, so that would be
Right,
the
so I
entire.
think it would be mayor with consent of governing body. So you will write the ordinance that says the mayor at the reorganization meeting will appoint a appropriate authority, which will consist of 2 council members and the borough administrator. Correct, Ken?
Yes, so until the end, so that's going to be done at the reorg meeting, so until the end of the year with the appropriate authority.
Right now, Rob is.
Until
So-
the end of the year, because we're not going to make these changes other than the ordinance, we're not making the changes to the bylaws until January, which John is saying we have to do,
Well, that's
correct?
the issue but here's the issue still. We still have Brian and Jill that are on judiciary, OEM, auxiliary, and police.
Right,
Well, now we are,
Right.
weren't in the beginning.
but is that,
We knew what it read.
is that committee an
That's
issue
always
by
fine.
itself?
Yeah.
John, is that committee an issue by itself without any?
Let me make a suggestion here, and it's along the lines of what the chief said. Work with the committee that you have, they're not the appropriate authority. In essence, outside of some of the policy stuff as it relates to
So
regulations.
the appropriate authority can't go with judiciary. Oh, no, that doesn't.
No, don't, let me finish what I'm saying, please, I was on a roll. So, what the chief is saying, he said, what, we can keep the committee as it stands right now, you could change, you can keep the committee people on, they are providing, under your bylaws, they are providing quote-unquote oversight. However,
Not as appropriate.
not as a policy-making board, which makes it, I would guess, okay.
We're not making any changes in
No.
the police department.
But Ken's question was, can we just leave the status quo as it is until January, as I understand? Leave these guys on the committee for working with the chief as they have been, as committee members? Yes, okay?
As part of that whole committee, that includes the courts.
Yes, yeah.
No, we gotta take the court out because.
In January, they can't be, there's nothing that says, you guys are free to create your committees, okay, which you did. You created a committee of these 4 departments. As long as they don't become the appropriate, the preemption and separation of powers doesn't kick in because it only kicks in under the appropriate authority, not as it relates to council committees. So you can keep the status quo right now.
Oh, because they could be liaisons to the police, but they
Right.
can't be an appropriate authority with the police.
It's the same, yes, because separation of powers doesn't attach to standing committees. It only attaches to the statute.
I have,
I'm sorry for this. Listen, can I just
I
add
have a
something?
question.
There's a guy who said something really good. I don't know where it is. Here it is. And you're not alone in this, okay? There's a guy that's really well known in this area of law, and I quoted him, and his name is Michael Payne, and he wrote, and I put it in the memo for a reason. This statute has unleashed a multitude of questions and problems. This is the bottom of page 1. This statute has unleashed a multitude of questions and problems, almost none of which can be said to be settled to anyone's satisfaction. The second quote is, "The case decisions, okay, on this statute appear to be somewhat at odds with the express legislative intent." So it's not easy, and it's a difficult struggle, and to get it right. And I would submit to you, most jurisdictions, and I don't want to comment on other boroughs, but I've seen them, and I don't like them, because, there are clever labor lawyers out there. And if you want to throw a police department in a tizzy, the quickest way is to have them break a rule of regulation of the department, tell the chief he doesn't matter, okay, thumb their nose, and then on a procedural issue, their cases, their discipline, whatever that may be, is overturned, because that statute and the scheme the borough has isn't constitutional. It's not a novel argument, what I just said. It's routine by labor lawyers who engage in police retaliation cases. So it's routine. So, but it's not an easy read to read the statute. The statute, just looking at it again, contradicts itself, because they originally said in the committee notes, I'll give you a perfect example it says that you shall have this, and it says may adopt, right, in the ordinance. So it's not a quick, easy analysis.
Are you going to provide a copy of your memo to the chiefs for the rest of the governing body?
Oh, sure, of course, yeah, sure. I just wanted to get it out as soon as possible. I sent it to another lawyer to be reviewed, and I advised Councilman that I was going to do that, because it's so easy, even when you say something, or something changed that I didn't know. So that's why I ran it by our labor council, who is probably, there's probably about a half a dozen attorneys in the state that actually understands this. But this guy, Payne, I actually tried to reach out, no longer. Guy's dead.
I have a question or a potential suggestion. Just
You write it any way you want.
So do you know what you are tasked with doing at this point?
Well, I do not,
Or do you
sure.
need clear clarification?
Well, if you're asking me to change the bylaws now, I will, in preparation for this Sunday. Glad to do it.
Change the bylaws for January.
Okay.
I have a question.
And Ken's suggestion is to leave it as is with the committee, right, with the current
So
committee?
that Jill and Brian are still in communication
With the chief, every day.
This is my question.
I have a question for the chief,
Yeah,
though.
but what's the difference right now? We've been in this situation before.
I'd like to move on, because
I'm trying, but we've been in this situation before where council members resign from the council in the middle of the year. They've been on committees, right?
Yeah.
They have to be replaced. What is the difference if Jill and Brian resigned from the committee and just got appointed to appropriate authority?
Who's left on the committee?
Then you put 2 new council members.
You do that too?
If you put 2 new council members on, then just name 2 to the appropriate authority. Put your
you
new,
can't resign as a committee.
as a person on the committee, why couldn't you resign as a,
Because it's never been done. Why would you do that?
Well, we've been running without it. What's the difference?
No, we haven't been running with it. We've been running with it. It's just, they don't have the appropriate one.
There's either way
You can't resign. We voted on it.
Well, like I said, you have council members who leave in the middle of the year, he's
not resigning from the committee, he leaves,
If the council person is no longer sitting in the seat, they can't be a liaison,
That's what he
but
means.
you can't, so should everybody just say, you know what, I don't feel like being on
No.
fire anymore?
Well, I
In the
think,
middle
I
of the
think
year?
you're saying, like, I say, you know what, I'm done. Like, I don't wanna be on the committee anymore. I'm
Chief,
done
I got a question.
prematurely. Then I would have to be replaced on the committee, so just replace it with another council person currently.
You said something that
And then
caught
just
my
name it,
ear.
and then
Then you
change
have 4
it.
people kind of dealing with police matters?
Yeah, can I ask
Why
the
do you need
chief,
to
may I
look at
ask?
dealing with police stuff?
Mayor?
That's
No.
the result.
May I
Just me.
May I ask? May I ask the chief, may,
Not that I'm thinking of it. Now, we're a pretty good police department. You know, the main thing is that this is not for right now.
right, okay,
This is for the future.
yes,
Whoever it is.
you gotta be careful.
You know what, and I really just think that, I am thinking it's gonna be so difficult. I really think it's just, keep it simple. We know what we've worked with before, let's put it in place.
Sure.
Let's keep on doing business where we can get enough.
John has one question.
I have a question, because something caught my ear. Are you currently engaging with the Rogers Group for new rules and regulations to be adopted this year?
So we never had, when I became chief, I got the Rogers Group to come and go over all the policies.
Right, good idea.
And myself and the craft, and I've been going through it, that look, we know a lot of work this year. I could have told Jane how much work she was gonna have to do
doing. It's not easy, and I commend you for taking on that role. But,
Any idea, have they given you an estimate when they would have them ready?
we've been doing it for, maybe 8 months now.
Well, so you're into it, so you're almost finished.
So, we're trying to wrap it up by the end of the year. The rules and regulations, we have the old rules and regulations. It is something that they've already proposed to Captain reviewing it.
Yep.
And then once he alters it to our department, then we're going to pass on to the appropriate authority to go over.
Gotcha. Okay. So, I'm gonna go back around just so that I understand. So I'm doing, as Councilman, who suggested it? It wasn't Argenti, it was Ken. It was Councilman Hoffman. Two council people
Council members.
to be appointed by the mayor, with the consent, with the consent of the council. And, that's the appropriate authority ordinance, new ordinance, okay. And that,
Take the language out about commission.
yeah, got all that, and then change the bylaws for January, as the chief is saying. Is that it? That's what I'm gonna do, going once?
And rewrite the actual ordinance
So that's part of it, that's what I
of what the duties of the appropriate authority are.
No, the appropriate authority follows the statute.
Oh, then,
That's it, that's all you write. Don't write, a lot of towns will put the statute in there, and as this borough did, because there's one more fix. They made a mistake, right? There's a minor error, because right now, the chief, because they put the appropriate authority language in there, and they say the appropriate authority, the chief shall report to the administrator, not the appropriate authority. That's wrong. So you don't need to make that mistake again. You just simply rewrite, and I'll fix that section of the ordinance where it's simply the borough adopts the actual statute, NJSA 14:118.
and then you just read the statute.
You don't, and you go
And it's
look to the
clear.
right, you look to the statute. That's some way trying to make fun of it.
Jamie, got all that? Because we're gonna have to finish the paper in the wee hours of the morning in late December, getting ready for a reorg meeting in January. Okay. All right, is everybody good now? Everyone's good? The next item on our agenda is public comment. I don't think anyone's on, so I think we're going to...
There was someone here,
Sorry?
Jill and I read off.
There's somebody outside?
There was someone.
Oh, I think that's,
You're still
The next order of business is public comment. Members of the public are welcome to speak on any topic by announcing your name and address for the record and asking for permission one at a time. In the interest of time, speakers are limited to 5 minutes, including questions and answers. In consideration of all who may wish to speak, please keep your comments brief and concise. May I have a motion to open the meeting to general comments from the public?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Is there anybody from the public that wishes to be heard? Colleen, do you have anyone on with you? Colleen? Okay.
No, Mayor, there's nobody on here. I'm sorry, I couldn't unmute myself.
That's okay. I just wanted to make sure there was nobody on there. All right, very good. Thank you. Okay, so there is nobody online, there is nobody present that would like to speak, so seeing no requests, may I have a motion to close the meeting to public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay. The next item on the agenda is resolutions on consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve consent agenda number 152-20 through 158-20?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Bailey?
Yes.
Councilwoman McGuire?
Yes.
Councilwoman Denalo?
Yes.
Council President Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilman Gordon?
Yes.
Councilwoman Argenzia?
Yes.
Passes, Mayor, 6-0.
Thank you, Ms. Decheck. The next item on the agenda is closed executive session, resolution number 159-20. We are now going into closed session. Members of the public, of which there are none, may remain on go-to-meeting if there were until we return to open session, at which time formal action may be taken. May I have a motion to go into closed executive session to discuss matters exempt from the public pursuant to NJSA 10:4-1 et sec.
So moved.
Adequately
Second.
noticed by resolution number 159-20.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Bailey?
Yes.
Councilwoman McGuire?
Yes.
Councilwoman Demoto?
Yes.
Council President Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilman Gordon?
Yes.
Councilwoman Argendia?
Yes.
Passes, Mayor, 6-0.
Thank you, Ms. Decheck. All right. Stop taping, everybody.
No longer being recorded.
All right.
This conference will now be recorded.
May I have a motion to reconvene?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Do we have any business? No? With no more business to discuss, may I have a motion to adjourn this meeting at 10:43 PM?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. We're adjourned. Thank you.